We're good?
Yep.
We need the town attorney.
You need him in there? I think he's start. He's helping out next door, explaining evidentiary hearing to citizens.
Everybody ready to start? Are we live yet?
Give me thumbs up. Yes.
Yes, Gary, you're showing up on YouTube.
Make sure all the microphones are on, please.
Testing.
All right. Okay. All right, I call to order the Town of Rolesville Board regular meeting, March 2nd, 2021. If you would, everyone rise and we'll say Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Jackie, you mind leading us?
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the beauty of this day. We thank you for your love and care for all of us. And we pray that the actions taken tonight will please you. Please guide and direct us. We ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, thank you, Jackie. All right, thank you, board, and thanks for everyone that's online watching. We got a pretty full agenda tonight. My hopes is we still will finish the meeting by 10. I think it's not mandated anymore, so if you guys want to go later than that, that's fine. But well, if we can, we'll still try to do the 10 o'clock. So with that, we'll jump right into the agenda. The first item is to review the agenda, and we're going to have the liaison reports tonight. Chamber, I think, will be here tonight. We've got consent agenda board, and I think 4 actions in the board agenda. So any discussion, or can I entertain a movement to approve the agenda?
So moved.
A second.
I got a motion from Sheila and a second from Jackie. Is there any more discussion? Not all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, board. Appreciate that. I think that was unanimous, Robin. All right, let's go see what we got on some liaison reports. So Mayor Pro Tem Medley.
Okay, so there hasn't been anything, we haven't met since we had our joint planning board meeting, so I have nothing new to share.
We had one meeting that we had to redo or something. Is that what I understand,
Oh,
Kelly?
yes. Well, we all got the message on that. I guess it was audio, it was recorded, but not visual? Was that what it was?
Correct, it was not carried live. It was recorded, but to qualify for a public meeting, it needs to be carried live. It was virtual, so it has been rescheduled, I believe, for March 15th. Is the
Okay.
date.
2 weeks,
Is-
2 weeks away.
Is that going to be a full meeting, or is it just basically wrapping up what we said and, oh, I see the
You
attorney
should,
has
you
something
should,
to
you
say.
should, you should conduct it and treat it as a meeting.
As a new meeting, basically.
Yes,
Okay.
As if the other one didn't take place.
that's correct. The applicant will be present and everything will be presented again.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you, Michelle. Appreciate that update. Commissioner Sutton, Economic Development, anything from there?
Really not a whole lot. We do have a meeting coming up this Thursday evening, March 4th. I think it's at 6:30 p.m. with the group, the Economic Development Group. After this meeting, we should have a name of the group. And so that'll be Thursday night. I did have an opportunity to attend a chamber session that they hosted, and it was really good. It was on organizing your business. And I'm going to encourage whoever the owner that did it to do that again. It was really, really good, especially for small businesses. I got some nuggets. But it was a lunch session that they broadcast live on Facebook. Maybe you guys see some of those sometimes. And I just chimed in on it, and it was really good. So they're doing some great things, so just wanted to highlight that, and I'm looking forward to the chamber update tonight.
Good.
So that's really all I have for now.
Yeah, the only thing I've seen, I did see on one of the social media sites, it may have been Facebook, where the town center development is advertising. If anybody wants a business it had a number you can contact. And so, they'll start looking at putting some businesses down there. I know quite a few that are interested in either moving down there or opening up a new business. And I think the rumor is there may be a couple of restaurants from some of the other places want to branch out. So I hope all that works out. So it's encouraging to see the start of that. So
Yes, it is. Exciting.
that's right. Okay, thank you, Commissioner Sutton. Paul, Commissioner Vilga, anything from Parks and Recreation Advisory Board?
Yeah, we had a meeting on 2/24, discussed a couple items. The OSAG plan update, which will be your bike pedestrian plan and open space at Greenway. Working with McAdams right now for that to finalize the scope, and then they're going to start working on that. We discussed land for a future park. The group got to take a look at a possibility for that. Got an update regarding the Carlton Point Greenway, a couple items for the Redford Place Park, and the last thing I have is the farm layout and bond discussion. In front of you, you'll find a 11 by 17 map of, we had two options to look at that night that the group did, and this was the option they chose. There wasn't too much of a difference between those two options. And what this is basically, this is a layout that's based on what we originally put out to the public in 2019 on what they were looking for in a park. A couple minor changes, the multi-purpose field up in the upper corner, that's a change. We used to have 5 fields there, now that's just a multi-purpose. And that's to use that for softball, baseball, soccer. You can split it up to whatever you want to now. And that'll also be turf instead of being natural grass. And it also shows you have the event center, an event space, an amphitheater, dog parks, and also playgrounds. What we're looking to do here is, right now they're talking about a bond, and they would like to bring something before the board, but before they do that, they need something concrete to base it on. This is the concept they'd like to have McAdams finalize in 30% construction drawings, and then get pricing from real-time construction pricing. And that way they can put that together, put something to put in front of the board for a possible bond opportunity. Does anybody have any questions about the layout? I didn't want to get real specific into it. I feel like we should maybe make some time on our March 16th meeting as well to get more in depth with it. But the request tonight is to get this in front of McAdams, because if we wait till that meeting, we're 2 more weeks into it. It's going to take them 4 to 6 weeks to get numbers and stuff. So we're really getting into a time crunch here if we don't start moving on it.
Paul, I do have a question.
Okay.
In regard to the curb cuts.
Yep.
I see 2 right in, right out curb cuts. I knew we had 1. Was the second one approved?
I'll let JG answer that.
Commissioner Wilson, the northernmost curb cut is not approved. We have had conversations with NCDOT to acquire a second entrance to the facility, but we are showing it in the 30% so we can get a true cost estimate. And it's rather to have that cost estimate up front than to come back and have to re-engineer it. So we're getting it all done up front in the hopes that we do get that second one. But we had positive conversations with DOT.
I applaud you for trying. That's good. The lane in the center of those 2 curb cuts, what is that?
I believe that's just an island to separate your ingress and egress.
Okay, so, no, I'm talking about the,
That's your existing entrance.
that's the existing entrance.
Correct, yes, sir.
And will that be shut down, or will that be?
Yes, sir. We're going to abandon that one. We've worked with DOT. We haven't got the 100% approval, but we've kind of got a verbal that they'll allow us to shift it down south.
Yeah.
That's more It's a better entrance in. It kind of preserves that whole natural farm original site as well.
You definitely don't want to abandon it until you get approval on the others.
Correct,
but
yes,
I'm
sir.
sure you know that.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Okay, all right, I applaud you for doing that because I think we need to, curb cuts there.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
And then it looks like it'll be a future outlet on the third one too, to 96. I do have a question. I don't know, it'd be best for JG or Paul. I know we had talked about putting some greenway, especially along that natural area to the south, I guess it's to the south. And I don't see it on here. Is that part of another plan or different from this, or?
It's all part of this whole site master plan. This is more of your physical moving dirt, buildings, locations for that cut fill for the estimates. So this is just a high level overview of the whole plan, but there's more details that's in this. This is just an overview of what they really truly need to get those cost estimates for the cost of this project.
So the greenway to the culvert underpass will be done during the project then?
Correct, yes, sir.
Gotcha.
Included in the design of this?
Right, when we get closer to that 30, 60, 90, this is just a high level right now. This is the true cut and fill is what you see on this paper, moving the dirt for the athletic complex, the event center, the event space, amphitheater, all that, everything that goes, your roads, that's what they truly are looking at right now. And for the greenway, we can go to our property line. Well, eventually, we need to jump the creek going south to get through the culvert. So then we have to work with another property owner for future connectivity, but we'll at least get it to our side. Yes, sir.
Right. Thank you. That makes sense. Appreciate that. Thank you, Paul. Any other updates from?
Just want to get the board's idea. Are you okay with moving forward with giving McAdams to go with this, just to get their 30% done? I just hate to have them hang out for 2 more weeks if we're okay with. And it's not to say this is in stone, that this is how it's exactly going to be. If this gives them an idea of what we want. Yeah. Yeah. This is what we're going to base things on. This is how we can get pricing, because otherwise we're going to be guessing price wise. We're never going to get something concrete. So.
Do we need to vote on that? Or do
And
we
this,
just-
this is proposed to be done all in one phase that we see on the thing here.
Yeah. Right now, until we get that pricing back to the other board, and if they decided that that's a little too much or this doesn't work, then they'll come with a recommendation for that as well.
But this is for them just to work up pricing.
Yes. Yep.
Gotcha.
Well, thank you, Paul. Keep us posted. Appreciate that. Commissioner Wilson, Public Safety, anything?
Yes, Public Safety met for the first time this year on February 4th, and they informed us of activity in 2020. The fire department ran 1,108 calls in 2020, and over 50% of those, as you know, were first responder calls. And I want people to understand how much training these firefighters have to go through to stay certified and be certified. These firefighters had 6,672 hours of training in 2020, and every bit of it was virtual. That's tough. They're also going to make available later this year knock boxes for residents. Knock boxes are these little, I think they're red boxes. You see them on places like my business, like Granite Falls. It's on the outside of the door, where if they need to get into a place of business after hours, they don't have to break the door down. They have a key to that box, and they open that box and pull the key to the store out, open and get in. Lock boxes are going to be available to residents later this year. You have to pay for them. We don't have the cost on them yet. But in the event that somebody called in an emergency or something at your house and you're not there, rather than them have to do property damage to get in, they could use a lockbox or knock box for you. So that's something.
You call it a
that's
what
on-
now? Knock?
Knock,
K-N-O-X. That's the manufacturer. Knox box. I'm sorry. Yeah. EMS report came from Wake County because we're no longer serviced by Eastern Wake EMS. It's by Wake County. And Wake County ran 109,179 calls last year, averaging 310 calls a day. One thing that that stood out is the common flu was almost non-existent this year because of face masks. Okay. Regarding the police department, we were informed that the current tasers that we're using are obsolete. Still working though, but they're obsolete. And they've submitted a grant for 10 new tasers. And this month, they're anticipating getting 4 new Explorers to replace the 4 old ones that they've got that are got high mileage on them, and they will sell the old ones. And that concludes my report. If you have any questions.
Yeah, I did not realize that Wake County had gone as far as they did with EMS until I think I talked to Bob, a couple weeks ago, Bob Matheny, mayor of Zebulon. But I thought that thing was on hold, but evidently they moved on it and took control of East Wake EMC, and I guess they have disbanded now. So,
yeah.
Yeah, it was featured in the Wake Weekly, I think 2 weeks ago, and I think I referenced to you all.
Yeah.
That article, so.
I'm just hoping that our response calls, and I feel like they will, our response calls will stay as good as they are, because at one time, 95% of our response calls were 11 minutes and under. So.
Seems like they're present at our facility quite a bit here too also, so it does feel like they are present.
Yes.
When available.
Yes.
Do we know how many EMS calls were Rolesville? Is there any
I do not. That was not broken down, but it's readily available. I can get it for you.
Just curious. That's interesting. We need to keep our masks on when we're out or
Yes.
not able to social
Yeah.
distance.
very good. Well, thank you, Commissioner Wilson. Appreciate that. And now I invite the public to be heard. So if any non-agenda items that's not in public hearings, if you want if the public, do we know if any next door there, Robin? If so, we'll allow them to speak at this time. And also, if there's any comments made to the public comment submission website, we'll take that also. No, and no one next door? All right, okay.
Wonderful.
Well, good. Next item, chamber report. So I thought we was gonna have someone here. They next door?
Escorted right in.
Okay, good. We hadn't seen the chamber in probably a year, so this is gonna be exciting to have them back plugged into our meetings. I think going forward, we're gonna try to have them here on a regular basis, maybe every quarter at least. So welcome.
You can use that one right there.
Okay.
Where's your computer so we can?
Is this it? Come on over.
I got you. All right. So welcome back. Good to see you guys.
Look, can I take the mask off or do I leave it on and talk through the mask?
You can take it down.
I can take it off?
Because you're distant.
When you're talking,
Okay.
please.
All right.
But if you sneeze.
Shut it down.
We're good to go? All right. Well, you're right. It has been a while. So Happy New Year, everybody. I think I've seen everybody in different capacities. So we're going to make this, really brief, straight to the point, to give you a chamber update. I do want to say that I do have a request that we meet in April, if possible. Our 2 boards, I know we didn't meet last year, but I do want to put that out there for you guys to consider. And then also, I did talk to Kelly, so he is aware of our request to meet too. Tonight, I am accompanied by our wonderful Chamber Board Chair, Alan Mitchell, over there, holding it down, so he's going to scroll through for me. So tonight, just a quick theme, elevate, activate, ignite, right? So I have listed here just the Chamber Board because we do have a new board as of December. The addition to our board is Dick Armand. If you're familiar with him, he is now with Wake Forest and Engraving. He is our vice chair of the board. Terry Simmons is our treasurer. Kathy Vegas is our secretary. Our directors are Ken Adrian, Susan Crumpler, Barbara Timmons, and Natasha Miller. We can keep it moving, Alan. So when we look at elevate, activate, ignite, just some key things to think about. When you think about our training and education, there are quite a few things that we have changed in the chamber. One of the things I will tell you, COVID, we've decided to take the positive side of COVID and look at the opportunities that it provided for us. So if you get our weekly newsletters, monthly newsletters, I'm going to talk about that because we changed our process. But one of the things I did include in there was talking about kind of the step back that we did. This provided us an opportunity to do some training, to be able to meet with some other chambers. We now sit on some other key boards that gives us visibility in other locations outside of Rolesville, which is really good for us. Some of the things that we've done, we have been doing on-site training. I've been going out to offices. There are a couple of businesses, when you think of technology, not everyone is as savvy as the next person. So I actually have been doing on-site one-on-one trainings with people. I've done some stuff with Michelle. That's why she's looking. I've done QuickBooks training. I've done Canva training, if you're familiar with that. I've also done a lot of Zoom training, also with Google platform and connecting their Google apps so that people in their office know how to give proper access and controls to their staff so that they don't have to have one login or this person doing that. So we've been doing some of those things too. When we looked at Activate, we look at business advocacy, and I shared a bit of this with Mayor Curran previously in December. The chamber has been really active. I have been engaged in a lot of advocacy with, I will tell you, I think Tom Tillis may know me now, Richard Burr, and then also David Price. Part of that is because there is a push and a fight for rural America. Rolesville is technically listed as rural America. Not only that, small businesses. So when the PPP funding came out, it was not distributed equally. There were also some things that people then think about where if you look at a person who has been incarcerated and they come out, they're now small business owner. The rules that were in place is that if you were an ex-felon, you did not qualify for PPP funding. So there are businesses that are actually in Rolesville that fall within that category that many may not know about, and I won't put their business out there, but there are things that are below the surface that as a Chamber of Commerce, when we're made aware of those, we're fighting for our businesses to say, hey, you need to include them. So if you saw there's like a mom and pop initiative, because people like myself and a couple of other chambers who are on the smaller side have more mom and pop shops who were struggling and did not get funding. They were not able to get the clearance from their banks. They were not able to get through the process, and they were overlooked. So some of them are working through the process even in this second go round of trying to look at getting funding. Another thing that we're active with is the regional chamber's legislative priorities. Looking at that, our focus is economic development, education and talent supply, healthcare, transportation, infrastructure are some key things. Of course, if you're home and you're on the internet, everybody's having infrastructure issues right now. There's not a business, there's not a home, there's no one that's not impacted by that. That was actually one of our main focuses before COVID, so it's interesting now to see where we are and look at some of those challenges. Some other things that fall under that are things like RDU, which for us is a little different, but we still support RDU and some of the initiatives that they have going on, and also looking at including some additional flights so that we can get more supplies and things here for our businesses. Moving on to Ignite, looking at our collaborations and partnerships. Of course, the town of Rolesville is one of our partners. We hosted a great event, which is the Rolesville Business Saturday last fall. We are in the preparation process of hosting one for the spring, so I'm excited about that. Our Rolesville area businesses, we have partnered with quite a few of our businesses. So when you mentioned the organizing your organization, that was done by Tisha Lowe, who is actually a new chamber member. She is a new chamber member, and she talked to me about some things that she wanted to do. I said, well, if you tell me what you want to do, we'll create a platform for you. So she was actually very surprised, and that was kind of pushing her outside of her comfort zone to even go live on Facebook, but we had a good discussion about it. She was happy that she did it at the end of the day, but I said, if you want to grow, let's just start taking those baby steps. She actually is going to create a series for us. So she is actually on the schedule for the next 3 months to provide training for businesses. And then you can always reach out to her. Another one that we have is our My Rolesville Connection series, which is sponsored by Alan Smith. Alan is a realtor here. We actually have Michael and Julie queued up to actually be on that premiere of the series this month. So we will talk about economic development, we will talk about transportation plans, and we're gonna break it down so that the average citizen can actually understand it. We had our tech call yesterday to kind of check the platform, see how things work, and we do know there are some internet challenges here with the town of Rolesville, in addition to some of us in our homes, so that's not surprising. Also, ACCE, which is the Association of Chamber of Commerce Executives. I actually now serve on that board, which I'm really excited about. When they reached out to me, I just thought I was going to talk to Cherie, just an average conversation like we have been having since COVID, and I actually didn't talk to her. I talked to someone else, and they said, you were highly recommended to sit on our board. And I was like, really? Why? And he said, well, they said you're creative and innovative. I said, okay, I'm game, let's go. So that gave me an opportunity to talk to them about Rolesville and share who we are. And I will tell you, there's a lot of interest in Rolesville because of our growth, how we're going, and how we're actually surrounded in certain perimeters by huge growth and then no growth. So that's a good thing for us. We also partner with A Better Wake. I don't know if you saw it, but this is an initiative with the Triangle Diversity, Equity, and Inclusivity Alliance. Part of that, I will tell you, for me, being a minority, being a Black woman, sometimes people ask me, even for Black History Month, Rachel, are you not doing anything for Black History Month? I was like, I'm walking Black history. There's no denying I'm a Black woman. There's no doubt about it. I said, for me, my push is to make sure that I educate others and make sure that people understand how to be an ally to the minority communities and to those who are actually seeking some type of equal justice, and make sure we address the racism that exists in a lot of our companies. So if the town has not looked at it, they have a toolkit available for you. They're asking communities and actually members of the community, organizations, sign up and become a partner with them. They will work with you, provide you with tools. They have videos, books, webinars, anything you're looking for. They have it available on their site. And Danya is, of course, everybody knows Danya. He's the person you can talk to if you have questions about that. Also, we partner with surrounding chambers. So we've recently, for this month, we partnered with the Wendell Chamber of Commerce. We hosted a morning virtual networking with them and also a business after hours with them. So it was a great opportunity to actually talk with them, hear some of the things that they have going on, and then also give our chamber members an opportunity to meet with people who are not necessarily in Rolesville. And we had people outside of Wendell in Rolesville who said, if I did not, if this wasn't virtual, I wouldn't attend. So that was kind of that. We can go to the next one, Alan. So looking at chamber statistics, and I cannot see that, so I'm just gonna pray. First box, looking at chamber membership, and these stats were as of December. We're at 150 members. Looking at our retention rate is 83%, which I will say we're very surprised by, considering the pandemic. 14 new members, which is not surprising, and then 10% increase in our social media growth, and that's kind of over our overall platforms. Looking at our members, we had, for the actual number of members that dropped, we had 14 members that dropped in 2020. We had 8 for non-payment, 5 businesses that closed, and 1 for other reasons. We do not publish our listing of businesses who decide to drop their chamber membership for various reasons, just because of our relationship with them. For some of them, I will tell you, we did provide options for our businesses. We deferred payments, we deferred invoices, we gave them an extra 3 months. We said, hey, if you want to go on a payment plan, we did a lot of things to try to work with them. But at some point, it is a business. And so we've done that. You didn't pay, you come off of our books. So those notifications actually go out within the next couple of weeks for those who are coming off the books. Social media and website. One of the things that's interesting, we look at our top pages outside of our landing page of our website. Membership directory, our event calendar, and our COVID resources were actually the top 3 pages that were visited on our website. Also, the town of Rolesville is still the #1 referral site to our website. We see where our traffic comes from. Town of Rolesville is #1 outside of our Facebook posts and things like that, which is not surprising. The #1 state that has been looking at the Chamber of Commerce is Arizona. I don't know why, but it actually spent, whoever the people are in Arizona, they spent quite a bit of time looking at the Chamber of Commerce website. So if you start getting increased, there you go. Also, we had Wisconsin, which is a new one, Maryland, New Jersey, and New York. I'm not surprised by the last 3 because they've been consistent, especially the New Jersey and New York areas. We had a 10% increase in our demographic for people in the age group of 25 to 34 that visit our site, which is unusual for us to have that demographic. So maybe it's an indicator that maybe some younger folks are looking to move to Rolesville, not sure. Or it could be business owners, because one of the things that I did receive in feedback is that people would like to have a young professionals group in Rolesville. So that's something, is just, let's get some more people who are actually businesses. As far as the top visitors to our site, the age group is the 45 to 54 is the top visitors to our website. Our next thing, looking at kind of what's next for the Chamber of Commerce, when you talk about workforce and education, I list that as like a pipeline talent development. I had an opportunity to actually talk with a foundation in Florida and talked about kind of how they stage as far as their building and planning and things like that, and very straightforward. Rachel, we plan out 30 years. We plan out 20 to 30 years. 5 years is a wash for us. 20 to 30 is what they looked at. And one of the things that he talked about, which was a huge pipeline for them, was the workforce and education piece, which we all know chambers of commerce play a huge part in. We also looked at adding in training and vocational studies. So we're working on some things with some businesses to actually offer that, because we have a lot of people who are out of work and people are looking at the possibility of career changes. And one of the things I know, Mitchell Heating and Cooling is always looking for people. I know ACK Electric is looking for people. So we're trying to find some way to provide people with an opportunity. If you're not familiar with the field, let's make you familiar with the field. There's a lot of money to be made, you're just not aware of it. Another thing also is working with businesses to develop internship opportunities. I've talked to Kelly about that. He's aware of my kind of just checking in with the town. We had a great discussion about that, so that definitely is something in the future. Chamber of Commerce has 2 new ones, really excited about that. We're also partnering with some other local colleges outside of Wake Tech, which is going to be really big for us as we look at that pipeline and talent development. And a lot of this will help us as we look at moving not only our kids, but looking at our actual residents are looking for other opportunities. And this will give us that pipeline to do that. How that ties in is when I look at the community and economic development, which is next, and talk about the quality of life and how we play a part in that. So when we look at actually reaching out our business retention and our expansion initiatives, one of the things we've done is for our Launch Rolesville graduates, we created a special membership campaign. That campaign for them, it gives them a 60-day free membership, and after 60 days, $15 a month. So in essence, they're paying $150 for their chamber membership, which is freaking low, but we're doing the best we can to work with them, right? That's only for our Launch Rolesville graduates, and working with that pool, who actually now will be serving on quite a few committees for us. Once we move beyond the Launch Rolesville group, then we will move into some of the businesses that are here in Rolesville. We are targeting specific businesses that we're looking to join the Chamber of Commerce. We also are looking at on our community piece. If you've been watching us on social media, we have a recognition campaign going on right now, which is our recognition and celebration of Women's History Month. So every day this month, there will be a woman who will celebrate it. A lot of the people are seeing some of the people on there, and it's not dawning on them like, oh my God, yes, that is a person. So we've received great feedback on that. We have a panel discussion that is in partnership with Rotary that is a part of this initiative. It is on March 15th. It will be streamed online via social media at 11 o'clock. This is in celebration of International Women's Day and also the diversity of Rolesville. So we have Olga, Veronica Alston, we have Jocelyn Kirkendall, we have Flavie Huff, we have Ilse. So every person on this panel just about is from somewhere else who's not here, which we're really excited about. But a lot of these women do not know each other. And so this gives us an opportunity to put them on a different platform. I know them, you all may know them, but Rolesville does not know them, and they're doing fabulous things. And so this is an opportunity to kind of expose people to things outside of Rolesville. When I talked about that pipeline, I was invited to a meeting in early February with Appijet Systems Corp. It was a small meeting. Excuse me. I talked to Kelly about this earlier. The company Appijet will be in Research Triangle Park. I don't know if you've heard of it. 1.2 million square foot campus. They will manufacture pre-filled single dosage syringes for vaccines and other injectable medicines. When we attended that meeting, one of the things that was key about that, when I was trying to figure out how did I get this invitation to come to that meeting, the meeting was actually with Appijet CEO, Franco, and his COO, Ray. Very straightforward, very straight to the point, what they're looking for, what they're asking for, what their plans are, what the projections are. They're looking for us to be a pipeline to fill their facility. We are part of the demographic that has been targeted for people in the workplace that could possibly work there, which is huge for us. Not only that, they're looking for the pipeline of being able to get students to kind of go through special training. So you're looking at Duke University, UNC, North Carolina Central, NC State. My HBCUs were on there, St. Augustine's. All of these colleges were on there because they're looking for direct pipelines to be able to field and look at the future of what is it that we can actually build into our communities. Also, we did meet with banks. I think that's always a hot discussion. I did mention to Kelly earlier, and I talked to Michael. I met with Peter Waltney, who is the CEO of the North Carolina Bankers Association. He's a great contact. I mean, Peter's wonderful. We had a great discussion. He was familiar with Rolesville, put me in contact with some great people. Everything that we're hearing is no different than what Michael heard. The one thing that we are kind of making that relationship with is looking at other opportunities for our businesses, which I've had great discussions with them, and they've made themselves available like any great bank would make themselves available. I love to work with your businesses, Rachel. So that was also something that came out of that. Looking at our corporate branding and our sustainability, which is our vitality, we look at one of modifying how we actually interact with our chamber members. A lot of that is attached to our behavior flow that is attached to our data. So breaking down the behavior flow, we go in and I actually analyze to see which pages on our website people go to. I look at which pages on our social media people go to, and I look at kind of where the interests are, where the peaks are, and exactly what's driving them there. What I found is that people actually respond better to the individual emails that you get that will announce one event, this is what's going on. We receive a better response from that than we will if we send one huge newsletter with a lot of information in it. People wouldn't read all the way down. They'll look at the first two things in the middle, and then there you go. I mentioned earlier we added in 2 new interns. One does membership relations and the other one does marketing and advertisement. Both of them, one is a junior at Panther Creek High School and the other one is a senior at Broughton High School. Not by choice, it was published online. Nobody in Rolesville applied. Rolesville actually referred some of the young men, some of the people to me, and those are the 2 that I ended up with. Some things that we actually reached out to our chamber members to find out some of the things that they're looking for. Kind of what do they want from their government, or what do they want us to fight for? They're looking for bodies in the door, right? They're looking for people in the seats in their restaurants. They're looking for people to come in their stores and shop. They're also looking on the ease of restrictions to allow more customers to be able to hold some more events and do some other things. Also, they're looking for information on funding sources and ways that they can engage with the community and not necessarily have to break their bank to do that, because as we know, a lot of our businesses have been impacted and they don't have the budget available. That kind of wraps it up. Some things that we have coming, the welcome wagon. I'm not sure if you're all familiar with our welcome wagon, but we have a welcome wagon that we're doing. We actually are partnering with Rolesville Police Department. We will be developing our welcome wagon bags. We send out letters to welcome new residents to Rolesville, but we actually will be delivering welcome bags to them in partnership with the police department, one, so that people can meet the police department can meet them, and then we be there. So basically, we didn't want to go by ourselves, meaning you didn't want Rachel go to somebody's house by themselves, and we don't want the police to go there by themselves and freak somebody out. So therefore, we do it together. Great partnership. People see community. I did it actually in December, got a great response in December when I did it in December to some residents who were actually extremely surprised and were happy that they purchased their homes in Rolesville. And to wrap it up for us, we're excited about kind of what has come out of the pandemic. We're all a little nervous for what our new normal will be. Oh, I'm sorry, Alan. I didn't tell you look, yeah, I'm sorry. Look, see, I'm on point. We're excited for kind of what's to come. But also excited for some of the changes that have happened because of the pandemic and ways that we're able to provide support and kind of be able to help some of our businesses and be able to expand outside of what we've been able to do with the use of technology. So we're definitely excited about that. And that kind of concludes. I'm sorry, Kelly. I did the best I could. I even choked up over here trying to get through it real quick. So that kind of concludes. Alan, I don't know if you have anything. He told me he was my arm candy tonight. So there you go.
A couple things.
Sure.
I appreciate you guys coming. It's really good to see you guys back in chamber. It seemed like a year has been a long time, and it has. And really appreciate y'all coming back. One, I think you mentioned 5 business closing. Mm-hmm. And I didn't realize it was that many. Is that in the last 12 months, or is that in the last month? Or
That's in the last 12 months.
That's in the last 12 months. I know of a couple, so I know some things you don't want to get out, and maybe we can talk offline. But I would like to know what those 5 are. Just
absolutely,
be love to know that. And then you're probably aware that we are losing our only full-service bank within the boundaries of Rolesville city limits. And some of us had been working on trying to lobby a new bank. And I don't know if y'all heard anything about a bank, maybe been in any discussions, anything like that?
We talked about it a lot
We
in
have.
our board meetings. And then we also had Michael come on and join us. And he talked about it quite a bit. And it just appears that none of the banks are interested in being located in a downtown. They love the idea of a bypass because they're getting the traffic.
Right.
But I think what's pushing them all away is that they just don't want to be locked into into the city center. So you probably have to find a special bank that wants that. And I know that my mother has raked SunTrust over the coals for pulling out. She's called multiple people over that, but the thing is the money's just not there for them.
Right.
So it kind of makes sense. But yeah, we have reached out and trying to think of who it was the other day that was talking about that they had talked to somebody, one of the banks. But again, it's they're looking for the traffic.
Yeah, technology has played a huge part in that. One of the things you look at with the advancement with technology, the chances of you actually going into the bank are very slim now. I know that when you look at as far as finding out how many people actually go to the bank, so talking to BB&T, now Truist, talking to that bank and asking who actually comes through the doors and looking at the demographic of the people that come into that actual physical bank location. And a lot of those have to do with undocumented immigrants. It has to deal with our senior citizen population who are not as comfortable with their phones and maybe an ATM machine. And so one of the things that I mentioned to quite a few of the banking contacts that I've talked to is that that's kind of a lost generation, but there's also a banking desert that's hitting rural America. It's not just us, it's other rural communities also. And because we're surrounded by quite a few banks, that makes it challenging for them to see the true purpose as of right now, especially in the middle of a pandemic, of putting something in Rolesville as of right now. But they've all been clear to say, hey, maybe a couple of years from now, you start building this, building that, there's always a possibility.
Yeah, no, I think you bring up a good point. A lot of us don't use banks, but some people depend on them.
Yes, they do.
And, migrant workers is one of them. A lot of times they need to go to a bank.
Farmers are one of the groups that is the most upset about it.
Right.
Because they go to banks,
Right.
and their farm help does, and so it's going to be tough.
They actually cash checks.
Yes, it's going to be tough.
Right. So appreciate y'all, working
Absolutely.
on that. I know we'll continue to work on it too. Some of the board members are working on trying to find one. And probably it will, if we do get one, it probably won't be a large franchise one. It probably more of a smaller bank.
If I can build on that, I'm a commercial broker, have a bank that wants to test the water. Our frustration is that we cannot get any information on the lease that is currently in place, how much time is left on it.
We had the exact same conversation.
You won't get it.
I don't know if anybody's
yeah.
going to release that. It'd be nice if they did.
Yeah. And I am also told that the reason for that is that Truist does not want another bank there. They want their customers to get used to going to Forestville Road.
Makes sense.
Which makes sense. But there is interest,
That's not very true.
but I cannot get the information.
But I will tell you, Commissioner Wilson, that was actually discussed before. So before it actually came out that the branch was closed, and I was actually made aware in a discussion with someone. They could not confirm it. They just said it was a high percentage that the bank was going to be closing, just couldn't confirm it. What they did at that time was broke down actually the difference between SunTrust and the difference between BB&T. One actually will buy a physical building. One likes to be in a shopping center, strip mall, whatever. So I'm not surprised. We talked about it in the meeting. I think I actually updated the board that you probably won't get that information and that they are known for actually holding the lease. Because for them, it doesn't really cost them a huge amount to hold the lease if they can drive traffic to their other locations. So.
At least if they get that pattern.
Yep. Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate you coming.
I was like, don't get me in trouble with.
Thank you very, very much. That was a fantastic update. It sounds like you all are extremely busy, and I am excited about what you guys are doing for Rolesville.
Thank you. I was going to say, don't get me in trouble with Kelly. We had a great discussion. Thank you, guys. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. Thank you, Arm Candy.
I need Robin's assistance. My computer has done something here, and I've lost my agenda. When I get this, pull it up, I get that, and I can't get out of it.
from here to here, but
Did you leave your computer over here?
yeah, I'll have to listen to it again because I know.
Off?
Yeah, Rob, if you could, take it to your desk and see if you can
If you
take a
could
look
get
at
rid of
it.
that view for me.
Thank you. Appreciate it. That's probably frustrating there. Thank you. Next item we have is the consent agenda. Quite a few items on there. I will not read them tonight, but I will ask if I can have a motion on the consent agenda. And naturally, if anybody wants to pull anything, we will pull it and vote on it separately immediately after we approve this consent agenda with the items that are left on there. If it's a quick question, I'll entertain the quick question and we'll leave it on there.
I just wanted to say for the benefit of the public, most of these items we've already reviewed.
Yes.
So we're not just saying so moved, but I want to say so moved unless someone
All
has
right.
questions because we have already reviewed these.
I had one question. Kelly answered that yesterday for me, so I'll second that motion.
Okay, we've got a motion, a second, and I'll just add, you're exactly right. A lot of these we cover in workshops.
Yep.
And we don't vote in workshops, we cover them, and a lot of these we cover there. So I got a motion and a second. Is any other discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
And I don't hear any opposes, so that's unanimous. Thank you, board, appreciate that. And now we'll get into some of our hearings. The first one is a evidentiary hearing for case SUP 20-02, Wall Creek Special Use Permit for Mixed-Use Development and Commercial Overlaying Special Use Permitted District, CO-SUD. And I think I will, now call the case to order and call on the town attorney first to give us a procedure statement on that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And if I could, let me pause a second until everyone gets in.
Robin, if you need to do your job, I'll just wing it and watch from the cameras.
Want me to try?
We have a few more who are on their way in. Quasi-judicial hearings have characteristics similar to court proceedings. Quasi-judicial hearings and decisions made by the board must be based only upon the evidence presented at this hearing and site visits by the board, if any. Witnesses must testify under oath or affirmation. The parties may be represented by legal counsel. The parties have the right to cross-examine witnesses. The parties have a right to object to improper testimony or evidence. There is a right to present rebuttal evidence. All evidence provided by witnesses must be competent and material. Unduly repetitious or irrelevant testimony may be barred by the chair. An attorney or party wishing to cross-examine a witness shall stand and wait to be recognized by the mayor. Normally, witnesses may testify only to their personal knowledge of facts. With regard to competent evidence, North Carolina law prohibits a person from giving opinions about scientific, technical, or other specialized subjects unless the person by knowledge, skill, experience, training, or education is in fact an expert on the subject. A person wanting to give an opinion as an expert must first state his or her qualifications to be an expert. North Carolina General Statute 160D 1402 specifically prohibits opinions that the use of property in a particular way would affect the value of other properties, or opinions that the increase in vehicular traffic resulting from a proposed development would pose a danger to the public safety unless the witness is an expert on the subject. Board members will now go through the voir dire portion, and I'll ask a series of questions. A member shall not participate in this hearing if the member has a fixed opinion prior to the hearing that is not susceptible to change, has engaged in undisclosed ex parte communications, has a close familial, business, or other associational relationship with the applicant or an affected person, or has a financial interest in the outcome of the matter. Is any member predisposed to vote a particular way on this case such that his or her opinion is fixed and the evidence presented during this hearing is not likely to influence his or her decision? You can answer individually, or we may be able to do this as an acclamation.
No.
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 Let's do it that way. Speak up if one of these triggers a memory or a concern. Has any member discussed this matter with proponents, opponents, or others?
No.
No.
I have.
Can you provide more information to the board and to the parties?
Yes, I met with Austin Williams early on. I want to say it was last year, February maybe, January of last year. And he showed me kind of a general concept of what he was going to propose.
Thank you. And so for the record, Commissioner Sutton, you met with the applicant prior to the submission of their application?
Way prior, yes.
Okay. Based upon the information that you received at that hearing, would you be able to set that information aside and be able to limit your considerations only to the evidence presented at the hearing today?
Yes.
Okay. Do you believe that you'll be able to be an impartial decision maker in this case?
Yes.
With regard to that disclosure, I would offer to the board and to any of the parties if there is an objection to the participation in this case by Commissioner Sutton.
No.
No.
Okay.
And if it's prior to application, I would say that I have met with Mr. Austin. It was prior to COVID, so it had to be probably in 2019, maybe late 2019 or something, way early in talking about developing something like this, and we haven't met since then.
And therefore, I'll ask you the same question, Mr. Mayor. Will you be able to limit your considerations to the evidence presented at this hearing?
Yes.
And do you believe that you can be an unbiased decision maker with regard to this case?
Yes.
Are there any objections with regard to the participation of the mayor by board members or by any party or other members of the public who may be listening in the other room?
No.
No.
Hearing no others, let's move on to question number 3. Does any member have a close familial, business, or other associational relationship with the applicant or an aggrieved party? An aggrieved party would be someone opposed, that you know to be opposed to the issuance of this special use permit.
No.
No.
Does any member have a financial interest in the outcome of the matter?
No.
No.
While not a conflict of interest, specialized knowledge of members should be disclosed. Does any member have particular knowledge or expertise regarding the site or the subject matter of this hearing?
No.
Has any member made a site visit in anticipation of this hearing?
No.
No.
Are there any other objections by a member of the board or by a party or to any other individual withstanding to the participation of any member on the basis of a conflict of interest?
No.
Hearing none, I turn it back over to you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Okay. I will ask Robin to administer oath to the witnesses, and I would encourage anyone that think that they would participate in the meeting to please take the oath. That would include anybody next door. So if we don't have anybody in here, let's get them in here to be sworn in. If you want to.
Okay.
I'll tell you.
Okay.
Due to COVID, if you would just remain where you are and raise your right hand. You can swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Okay, thank you. I open the hearing, and I will call for a staff report. And Julie, you want to do that?
Yes, I do. Can you hear me in the microphone? Am I close enough?
Not really.
No.
It's kind of low.
Is it on? Make sure it's on.
It might not be on.
Tap the mic.
There you go.
It is on. It's just I can talk a little bit louder. So, good evening. Thank you. Julie Spriggs, Planner 2 for the Town of Rolesville. Tonight we are doing a case for a special use permit -20-02 for Walbrook. It is item number C.1 on your agenda. It is a special use permit request to include a mixed-use development along South Main Street in the area between Burlington Mills and Jonesville Road. It does have a component of residential and commercial portions, and this is on the southern side of Main Street. The summary information is the parcel is undressed at this time, so it is 0 South Main Street. The pins I will not bother to read to you, but they are on the screen. They are in your staff report. And the owners of the land is Walbrook Land Co. LLC. The deeded acreage is around 57 acres, plus or minus. And the current zoning is commercial outlying special use district, commercial outlying district. The map before you is the location map. The red outline shows the two parcels that we just talked about, the 0 South Main Street parcels. There is a more southern parcel and a more kind of eastern parcel, and so those are how we're referring to them tonight. You have the Wall Creek subdivision backed up to it. This is the ABC store here, and this is Team Extreme, this is Bojangles, and this is South Main Street and Town Hall. So it's these parcels in through here. I am showing you a special use concept plan that the applicant has turned in. This is the updated concept plan. You do have a printout at your desk you may refer to. I printed it out a little bit larger. That way I can flip through on the screen and you can still have something in front of you as we go through the presentation. So for the Unified Development Ordinance, on February 5th of 2019, the Board of Commissioners did approve a text amendment. Text Amendment 1804 allows townhomes to be permitted by a special use permit in the commercial outlying district. The UDO does specify that residential areas can be permitted to a maximum density, and for the townhouses, that's number 2, which is the townhouses shall not exceed 10 dwelling units per acre. The proposed development has an overall density of around 6 to 7 units per gross acre for the townhouse residential use of about 23 acres of the 58 or so acres that is under application tonight. So continuing on with that Unified Development Ordinance text amendment, Section 8.3.12 outlines that there is a 15% space open space requirement, and of that 15% open space requirement, 35 of that 15% needs to be open space as improved for recreation space, and the remaining 65% is unimproved open space area. For the Roseville Comprehensive Plan, it does classify these parcels for mixed-use neighborhoods, which offer a mix of uses to residents with the ability to live, shop, work, and play in one community. The design and the scale of the development does encourage active living through the comprehensive and interconnected network of walkable streets that are often supported by multiple modes of transportation. That definition is pulled directly from the comprehensive plan. For the 2002 thoroughfare plan and the traffic impact analysis, the 2002 thoroughfare plan does call for Jonesville Road to be a 3-lane major highway, which is a 2-lane road with a center turning lane, and the existing intersection of Vineyard Pine Lane is the existing 3-lane highway improvement that you see going up to South Main Street. The town currently has a locally administered projects program, affectionately known as LAP. They do have a LAP grant for the Main Street Vision Plan under design. The developer and the town have worked together to ensure the recommended improvements are incorporated to alleviate the most congestion possible that will result from the development. NCDOT and the Technical Review Committee will review submittals before approvals. As tonight, what you see in front of you is a concept plan, not a site plan. The site plan will be coming back through TRC for further review. And on that Technical Review Committee, we do have NCDOT as one of our review partners. So those recommendations and modifications based on your special use permit application tonight, any conditions that are tied to the permit will be reviewed along with the Main Street and LAP grants to make sure that all these plans, conditions, and recommendations from the TIA work together for the site plan approval process. The applicant has submitted a traffic impact study, an addendum, and a revised traffic study and meeting notes from the continued discussions that we've had on the TIA and the LAP project. It involves the town, NCDOT, and the TA engineers and the applicant. Those meeting notes are in your packet as well. The traffic impact study, there are two because the update was done. The original study was done in February, then it was an update done in August. So both of those traffic impact studies are in your packet, so you can read through those. There was a neighborhood meeting on February 8th of this year. It was held virtually due to COVID-19 restrictions. There are proposed conditions, and the proposed conditions will be presented by the applicant as part of their presentation. And for the special use permit findings, you have this in front of you at your desks. This is pulled from 3.6.2 from the current UDO. These are the findings of facts that we base all special use permit applications upon when we make our decisions. That the proposed development and/or use will not materially endanger the public health or safety, that the proposed development and/or use will not substantially injure the value of the adjoining property, that the proposed development and/or use will be in harmony with the scale, bulk, coverage, density, and character of the neighborhood in which it is located, that the proposed development and/or use will generally conform with the comprehensive plan and other plans adopted by the town, that the proposed development and/or use is appropriately located with respect to transportation facilities, water and sewer supply, fire and police protection, and similar facilities, that the proposed development and/or use will not cause undue traffic congestion or create a traffic hazard, and that the proposed development and use will comply with all applicable requirements of this ordinance. With those in mind, that is my staff presentation, and I can turn it back over to the mayor for the applicant to present their findings.
Okay. Thank you, Julie. The application and the staff report is admitted into evidence. And at this time, I will ask, is there a attorney representing the party that's applicant party? Is there an attorney? And if so, I will allow you to speak now, if you have any opening comments.
I do, Mr. Mayor.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the commission. I'm Jamie Schwader with Parker Poe at 301 Fayetteville Street, here on behalf of the applicant, Crosland Southeast. Julie did a great job in orienting you on this project, and we've really appreciated her help getting ready for these procedures here tonight. We're excited to be before you to take the first step in approvals for the Walbrook mixed-use project to begin implementing the town's vision for this important corridor along Main Street. This request is for residential and commercial portions of Walbrook south of Main Street, shown hatched on your slide in the light pink shade. Portions of Walbrook to the north and west of Main Street are planned to involve a separate entitlement process. The site today is zoned Commercial Outlying Special Use District, the COSUD, and commercial uses are allowed by right, but the proposed townhomes development requires a special use permit in this district per the text change that Julie explained just a moment ago. Now, I mentioned that this is the first step because at this stage, we're focused on the type and location of the uses of the residential area within this mixed-use project. If approved tonight, portions and phases of the overall site and project will then move on to site plan and additional development plan reviews with higher levels of detail. But tonight, we're limited to the special use permit and the relevant factors that Julie explained on the screen. As shown on the screen and in the handout that Julie provided, this is the site concept plan covered by the request. Of the 57 acres, about 23 acres will be residential and located toward the eastern portion on the site, shown in gray at the bottom of your screen. The remainder will be non-residential and is placed generally to the south and north of the residential, fronting Main Street and at the end of Virginia Water Drive. The entire site is anticipated to be developed in several phases, with the residential portion limited to 155 townhomes. The commercial portions are along Main Street between Burlington Mills Road and Extension and the Expert Auto Services site. And that area is planned to have a maximum of 20,000 square feet of office use and 18,000 square feet of retail. The remaining commercial portion is expected to have a total of 72,000 square feet, providing for a full use and ranges of mixed use. Because the townhouse use requires a special use permit, the use tonight must meet the criteria in Rolesville's UDO section 3.6.2. You'll hear from 4 witnesses tonight testifying to those 7 factors. First, you'll hear from Austin Williams with Crosland Southeast, who will speak to the vision of the project, the land use policies, and LAP grant coordination, covering factors 3 and 4. Brian Fagundes with ARC Consulting, our civil engineer, will testify regarding the site layout and plan conformance to adopted plans and UDO requirements, covering factors 3, 5, and 7. Mr. Matt Peach with Stantec, our transportation engineer, will testify regarding adequate transportation infrastructure and right-of-way improvements, covering criterias 1 and 6. And finally, Hunter Howell with Valbridge Property Advisors will show that the plan will not be detrimental to adjacent properties, covering factors 2 and 3. As you listen to their testimony, I'd like you to focus on these 7 factors and how we have satisfied our burden with expert witnesses in their respective fields. And to that end, I'd like to call our first witness, Mr. Austin Williams.
Before you do that, let me ask to make sure, is there any other attorneys that want to do an opening statement? Do we have an attorney in opposition in the building?
I'm not aware of anyone else signing in for the hearing.
Okay. Well, proceed then.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to call Mr. Austin Williams. Mr. Williams, can you please state your name and address for the board?
Austin Williams. My office address is 121 West Trade Street, Suite 2550, Charlotte, North Carolina, 28202.
And can you please describe your background and experience?
Yes, I'm a partner at Crosland Southeast real estate development firm. I have 18 years of experience as a real estate developer. I've created mixed-use developments across the Southeast. I have a degree in architecture from Georgia Tech and a master's in real estate from Georgia State University.
At this time, I'd like to tender Mr. Williams as an expert in real estate development. Can you explain for the board your role in this project?
Yes, my development partners and I own the parcels that are part of this request. I'm leading the development team on this project, and I've been involved in the visioning of this site for over 2 years as a new mixed-use destination on Main Street. We've ensured overall consistency with the town's vision for the area as described in the comprehensive plan and Main Street Vision Plan, and coordinated with the town on how the LAP grant work and our related transportation improvements will fit in with this project.
And are you prepared to testify as to certain factors here tonight?
Yes, I'll be testifying with respect to factors 3 and 4.
Thank you. With respect to factor 4, can you explain for the board how this application conforms to Rolesville's plans?
The proposed uses were guided by the comprehensive plan's policies for the area and directly conform to the plan's vision. The proposed townhome use is consistent with the future land use map designation of mixed-use neighborhood. The category contemplates neighborhoods with a mix of uses that offer residents the ability to live, shop, work, and play in one community. The property is zoned commercial outlying special use district, which is consistent with the future land use designation. A variety of commercial uses are already permitted in this district, which help to fulfill the shop, work, and play elements of the community. This residential portion will incorporate the live element of the mixed-use neighborhood designation by adding residential townhomes to the already permitted commercial uses.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Does that relate to any of the comprehensive plan policies of town?
Yes, it does. The proposed use conforms with several major recommendations of the comprehensive plan. One of these policies calls for more dense residential uses in limited appropriate locations, including locations closer to Main Street and areas closer to downtown. The site is part of the larger mixed-use project that has frontage along Main Street. It is located within walking distance from the many services and businesses currently located along Main Street. This walkability factor makes this portion of the site an appropriate location for the proposed townhome use. The proposed townhome use will provide diversity to the housing options in the area and create more residential density in close proximity to downtown. Another relevant policy is to celebrate downtown from Comp Plan page 10. The comprehensive plan seeks mixed-use development, including diverse housing options in the vicinity of downtown to activate the downtown core. The requested use would allow for townhouse uses in the vicinity of the downtown core and in a location walkable to new commercial development within the larger project. The proposed townhome use will diversify housing options in the downtown core and on a site where other mixed uses are already permitted.
Can you explain for the board how this use might conform to Rolesville's Main Street vision plan?
Yes, the plan's vision for Main Street is to create a safer, more successful, and more attractive Main Street for residents, business owners, and visitors alike. These parcels were envisioned to contain a mix of residential and commercial or mixed-use elements, and our plan provides for that mix. The property covered by this application is within the suburban fringe section of Main Street. The recommendations for this section include: 1, rebuild Main Street into a 2-lane divided roadway with a meandering 10-foot side path from US 410 bypass to Burlington Mills Road. 2, realign Burlington Mills Road to address problematic skew, creating a new intersection with the Main Street. And 3, connect Wall Creek Drive to a new intersection at Burlington Mills Main Street, including sidewalks. I've been working with the town for over a year as they have pursued lap grant portions for the first 2 elements adjacent to our site so that our development can dovetail with the lap grant work. This slide shows the location of those improvements, excuse me, and how the realignments will work with our proposed street network. The largest lap grant improvement will be the realignment of Burlington Mills Road. The connection from Wall Creek Drive to the new intersection with Main Street will be completed as a condition of this application. This will greatly increase the vehicular and pedestrian connectivity of the area. In addition, Burlington Mills Road Main Street area is a catalyst site in the Main Street Vision Plan. The plan states that market analysis reveals this area is suitable as a housing village that builds on the existing residential fabric, yet expands the diversity of offerings. The plan recommends to focus limited mixed-use buildings at select gateways along Main Street. Transition from here should include apartments, townhouses that connect to the existing neighborhoods. The key recommendation is to enhance connectivity in the Burlington Mills Road area by making street connections to the existing transportation network and ensure new streets are created with multimodal consideration. As shown on the slide, this project will provide many of these connections and enable the development of the larger site as a whole.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Can you show the board on the slide what those red dots represent?
Sure. Those red dots represent the lap grant funded portions of the Main Street improvements.
Thank you. With respect to factor 3, can you help show the board the surrounding neighborhoods' scale and character?
Yes. So this slide shows the overall project, both north and south of Main Street, in relation to the surrounding area. The site The site at issue in this use permit is the portion of the south of Main Street shown with the dashed red outline. The site is bordered to the south and east by existing single-family neighborhoods with roads stubbed to the rear of the site, and bordered to the northwest by future commercial parcels along Main Street. We're concentrating the proposed commercial uses adjacent to the main thoroughfare and visible for customers. These commercial uses will add additional services, convenience items, and walkable access to food that does not exist in meaningful or walkable way in this area of Main Street. Builders commonly request walkable amenities and seek to place new residential uses walkable to neighborhood-scaled commercial goods and services. In my experience, having these amenities closer to the existing neighborhoods tends to have a positive effect on the existing adjoining properties. The proposed townhome use being adjacent to existing residential on one side and proposed commercial uses on the other creates an appropriate transition of density between Main Street and the existing neighborhoods. We are also committing to lower density level of housing than is allowable under the special use permit process. We have the option of developing single family at 6 units per acre, townhomes at 10 units per acre, or multifamily at 16 units per acre. We selected townhomes on a 23.4 acre pod, which at 10 units per acre would allow for 233 units. But we are only proposing 155 units in this area, and the remaining 78 can be designated in the future to one of the other non-residential pods. The plan also includes riparian buffers between the townhomes and all existing residential uses. In response to neighbor requests, we are offering a condition that the area to the east of Wall Creek, on the east side of the Wall Creek subdivision, on the side of the Wall Creek subdivision, will be preserved and will not contain structures or other improvements. These factors make the proposed plan appropriate and in harmony with the scale, bulk, density, and character of surrounding areas. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. I have no further questions for this witness, but tender to the board for any further questions.
Can you tell me your name again?
Sure. It's Jamie Schwadler with
Jamie.
Parker Poe.
Okay, thank you, Jamie.
Thank you.
Any questions? Any questions from the board at this time? No? Continue.
Not yet.
Okay, thank you. I'll excuse this witness and call our next witness, Mr. Brian Fagundes. Mr. Fagundes, please state your name and address for the board.
Sure, I'm Brian Fagundes. My address is office address 2755 Suite B, Charles Boulevard, Greenville, North Carolina, 27858.
Can you explain your experience and background for the board?
Sure, I'm a civil engineer and principal with ARC Consulting Group, civil engineers based in Greenville.
And do you have any degrees?
Yes, I do. So I have a Bachelor's of Science in Civil Engineering from NC State, and I've been practicing civil engineering for 20 years. I'm a licensed engineer in the state of North Carolina and Virginia, and I have worked on development projects similar to this all over the state.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to tender Mr. Fagundes as an expert in the field of civil engineering and site design. Proceed.
Thank you.
Mr. Fagundes, can you please explain your role in this project for the board?
Sure, I've overseen the site design and concept layout plan before you guys tonight.
And are you prepared to testify as to certain factors tonight?
Yes, I am. I'll be testifying to factors 3, 5, and 7.
Thank you. With respect to factor 3, could you please explain how the character of the area surrounding the proposed use informed the proposed layout?
Sure. So with respect to factor 3, this site is on the east side of Main Street, and it is situated between Jonesville Road and the existing intersection of Burlington Mills and Main Street. Main Street, as you guys are well aware, is generally a commercial road. You've got Bojangles across the street from this site, Team Extreme located across the street from this site. The proposed commercial or non-residential, as you'll notice, is in closer proximity to Main Street, keeping that area closer in proximity to customers and to the general traveling public, and also situating the more intense uses closer to Main Street. So by doing that, that configuration allows us to keep the townhome residential uses towards the rear or towards the interior portion of the property, where it's closer to the existing residential and more compatible with that existing residential in terms of the size and height and scale of the residential, proposed residential. So in this slide, you'll see that the townhomes that are adjacent there to Wall Creek in Virginia, or the I guess, adjacent existing homes there on Wall Creek and Virginia Water Drives, they will be separated, as Mr. Williams mentioned, by riparian buffers from the proposed townhome pod. In addition to the separation of buffers, because the demand for residential is high at the moment, we're a little bit farther along with the thought process for the residential pod, so we're at the point of being able to commit to the no-build area that Mr. Williams testified about. So that no-build area shows up again on the map that was mentioned previously.
Thank you. And before we go to that, can you describe where those riparian buffers are on the slide in front of the board?
Sure. So and I'm going to use a highly technical term here, the squiggly blue lines that are surrounded by somewhat of a shade of green. And if I had a pointer, I'd point to them for you guys.
I don't know if one's on.
There you go. Right in there, there's one buffer, and then there's one kind of on that southwest side as well. Thank you for doing that.
You're welcome.
So with this slide, it shows in a crosshatch pattern down along that, we'll call it planned southeast side. It shows that hatched area which represents the no-build area that I previously mentioned. Within that area, that's where we're committing to do no building or structures. So the no-build area is about 1.75 acres, which is significant because the residential pod is about 23 acres. And there are about 4.4 acres of that are in the riparian buffer area that we just pointed out. So the remainder of this slide discusses the density and illustrates that at the 10 unit per acre density, we could have a maximum of 233 units based on the property acreage, but we're only placing 155 units on the site. So the residential pod could physically fit more units, but we're limiting that density to help make the use more in harmony with the existing community. So the remaining 78 units are reserved for potential future use in the non-residential pods, depending on what commercial uses or what tenants may come to that site in the coming years.
Thank you, Mr. Fagundes. And just to clarify, the no-build area, that hatched area, is that a UDO requirement?
No, it is not a requirement. That is something that we're offering up tonight as a condition for this.
Thank you. With respect to Factor 5, how is this site served by utilities?
So the site has access at the site boundaries to public water and sanitary sewer. We're covered with fire, police, EMS services. We're located on Main Street with direct access to that transportation facility. We're committing to a new public internal roadway network that will coincide with the overall improvements associated with the LAP grant project. So this slide on your screen before you now in the red dots, so this slide conceptually illustrates the location of those public improvements that I just mentioned. So these improvements will provide for the extension of Virginia Water Drive, the extension of Wall Creek Drive, which currently are stubbed to our property line. And by extending those through this development, they'll provide for a more direct route for the existing neighbors to gain access to Main Street. So these extensions create a new point of access, not only for those residents, but also for fire, police, EMS, to reach these neighbors via a more direct route instead of having to traverse through or around Main Street and then wind back through Wall Creek Drive. So fire and EMS, they generally prefer and favor multiple routes of access so that they have options to get to neighborhoods such as this. Typically speaking, in the event that something is blocked, flooded, et cetera, they've got better access and more options for that access, which benefits the existing residential neighbors if they ever should need those services.
Thank you, Mr. Fagundes. In your opinion, does the use and proposed development comply with the town of Rolesville's UDO requirements?
Yes, it does. So The commercial or non-residential uses are allowed by right within this zoning district. The residential component, so the townhome component, is allowed by special use permit, which is why we're here seeking that approval tonight. We're within the allowed density associated with the UDO. The streets and sidewalks proposed will comply with UDO requirements for street construction, pedestrian safety. The applicant's coordinating Main Street improvements with the town's portion of the LAP grant project. Because of all those factors, we are in compliance with the applicable UDO requirements. Furthermore, if approved tonight, we will follow with a subsequent site-specific site plan submittal that again will go through staff review, TRC process that will confirm the UDO requirements that are applicable to this development.
Thank you, Mr. Fagundes. I have no further questions for this witness and tender them to the board for any questions.
I do have a quick question. The no-bill area, and I think you described it somewhere over maybe an acre more or less. I understand it would nothing be built on there, but what's the condition now? Is it trees, vegetation?
Correct, trees and vegetation at the moment.
So will any of that be disturbed or cut when you say no bill? Will everything stay natural like it is, or you have other plans for that?
We're not as deep into the design for me to 100% answer, but the intent is for that area to stay natural with the exception of should we need to access that area for utility extensions, et cetera, then we'd clear as required for that.
And then you got the road going through there too.
Correct. So we'll have some clearing of that area associated with the required width to extend Wall Creek out to Main Street.
So I think the preference would be to leave it as natural as possible. I understand you have to put lines in or something.
Yeah, and that was the intent with offering that and providing that as a condition.
Any other questions from the board?
Good point. Good point. I had a question about just going back to the mentioning of the 78 units for future. I wasn't quite clear on that. Can you explain that again?
So the way that the density on this overall works is the density for the residential is established for the overall property, but it's based on the size of the residential component that we're asking to be designated as a strict residential pod. And so since we're not establishing or using all of that allotted density within that, we hang on to that and then can redistribute it based on the UDO within the non-commercial areas, should that need arise.
So when you say redistribute it within the non-commercial areas, are you saying redistribute townhomes possibly?
So it could be a true integrated mixed use at that point in the non-residential.
Gotcha. So it could be townhomes above a office space. I'm just trying to get.
Yeah, it could be, sure.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh.
Very good question. Any other questions? Okay, please proceed then.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, a question for council. Is that a condition that the 78 units would be integrated into a non-residential phase on those sites? That is, they would be mixed-use residential projects rather than a purely a second townhome project on the second site?
It's not a condition at this point. It's a reservation to use those units if the need arises. I think this site was identified for high likelihood of commercial use and providing those walkable services. So we don't envision that being a necessary condition at this point, because we really like to focus on providing those commercial uses. So it's just a reservation of the unit should the need arise.
So the question is, could the applicant, with the condition proposed, have a second townhome project on one of the other sites? That's really what I was asking.
I don't believe without going through a second special use permit procedure.
And I would second that. I would agree with that. Based on my understanding of the UDO, it would not be a second freestanding townhome project.
Okay, I'm seeing Mr. Williams nod the same. Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
I have a question for our town attorney. David, this hearing is for a special use permit for mixed use. So at this time, we're not allowed to talk about the product that's going in, as far as the townhomes, whether they'll have garages, or are we allowed to ask questions like that, square footages? Or?
You can certainly ask any questions of any of the witnesses to the extent it's relevant to finding answers to those items that are in your findings of fact. So if it fits the things that you need to determine, which is at your place, Mr. Commissioner, then it would be an appropriate question to ask.
Yes. I'd like to know more about the townhomes, the product that you're going to put in there, the square footages, whether they're going to have garages or not. And that's the starting point.
Well, it's under C, don't it?
I think to answer that question, I'd like to recall Mr. Austin Williams. And I think we're happy to provide the details that it sounds like you're looking for in terms of what the market bears and what the market would support here. But those items are not part of the conditions of the special use permit because those will be defined as we go forward to site plan. So to the extent that I'd like to provide the information, I'd like to do that, but I wanted to just make sure I was clear in terms of the level of specificity that the conditions reflect. Mr. Williams, will you please approach the stand?
But it seems to address, I just want to add to what you're saying and what Jackie's saying, it seems to address the character of the neighborhood because it's going to be adjacent, not adjacent, but near Wall Creek. So that feels like part of what your question is. Is that not the case?
It is. I have citizens that are in favor of connecting because Wall Creek has one way in and one way out. I have citizens that have approached me that are not in favor of it because of, in their view, and they are not traffic experts, but they feel like it will increase traffic along Wall Creek Drive. But again, building on what Sheila said, I've seen some wonderful townhomes. I'm a partner in a development called Granite Falls, and we have townhomes there that have been very popular and sold very well. But I have seen apartments, townhomes in other places that you couldn't give me because they did not do anything to help the character of the property adjoining it. So I'm curious about the type of townhomes that you plan to put there.
Well, our intent is to have a thoughtful blend of product types.
I'm sorry.
Our intent is to have a thoughtful blend of townhome product types. And so as an example of that, in the northwestern or planned northwest, so on the north side where the townhome pod is adjacent to the Burlington Mills Road extension, for example, our goal is to have alley-loaded townhomes, which moves the moves the garage to the rear of the unit. If you have a front-loaded townhome, like most townhomes are, the first story is almost all garage, just by nature. So by moving the garage to the back, it does allow for a front stoop and much better streetscape. There are some areas where the townhomes back up to the riparian buffers. In those cases, a rear alley is not appropriate. It also allows the backyard to be much more enjoyable without having vehicular connectivity in the back. And so our thought is to have a variety of widths, probably averaging 20 to 26 feet in width, and a variety of product types thoughtfully placed on the site.
2-bedroom and 3-bedroom mixture townhomes?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Julie.
If I may respond to just one earlier question, if Jamie will let me. The comment about 78 remaining townhomes of additional density, I do want to clarify that my interpretation of the text amendment that provides for this special use permit in the CO zoning does not allow for that additional density to be placed in a new townhome ground-up product anywhere in the non-residential uses. My interpretation of the code is that those units could be accomplished on top of commercial or non-residential uses elsewhere. It's not our current intention that we would do that. So by saying it tonight, we were strictly interpreting the code as written, that any density that we don't use on the designated residential pod does not necessarily go away, but is available to use in a vertically integrated fashion above non-residential. So we were just simply stating what we believe the code to say.
My other concern, and I don't know, stop me please if I asked the wrong question, is that this development gets underway and the townhomes are built, but the commercial never materializes. And I know that's some concerns of other board members. Can you tell me if you have an anchor yet for your, I know I saw one rendering that showed a proposed grocery store. I know you may not be at liberty to say what that is or who that is at this time, but do you have an anchor yet?
We do not have a signed lease, but I can say that we've made meaningful progress with a very desirable grocery anchor store.
Okay. And Mr. Town Attorney, this board will want to be in a position to make sure that a certain amount of commercial is in place before a certain amount of residential is in place. Do we have that latitude?
Mr. Commissioner, as I understand the proposal, this is a proposal that would bring the residential on as the first phase and would restrict the remaining parcels to either purely non-residential uses or to mixed uses with non-residential on the first floor and possibly, although it's not the plan, additional residential units scattered throughout the remainder of the site. That's what the UDO would provide.
And if I may ask another question of Mr. Williams, I think might help to answer the question you're searching for there. Mr. Williams, in your experience, what are some of the problems with tying the amount of commercial completed to achieving certificates of occupancy on residential units? And how does that inform your ability to move forward with providing rooftops for anchor tenants?
Well, in this particular case, there is a major conflict, which is that the LAP grant project, which is expected to start sometime in early 2022 and be completed sometime in mid to late 2023, although that could quite easily slip into 2024, although Kelly says he's going to do a great job managing it, and that's not going to happen. That means those commercial uses cannot open until the LAP grant work and our work, which connects to all those points along Main Street where the LAP grant work will occur, restricts any of the commercial uses opening until that infrastructure is in place. At the same time, based on the TIA addendum that identifies that a connection of Wall Creek Drive to Main Street is suitable for us to begin residential development and that the traffic can be well managed, allows us to get the residential going ahead of time. That's important to our commercial users that we'll be marketing to over the next few years to show progress from the residential standpoint. To the extent that the infrastructure and roadways that the commercial needs in order to open is still underway and there's robust residential demand, it would be quite painful to our project to have to arbitrarily stop residential development because we've not brought a certain amount of commercial online. I do also want to point out that as a condition of this SUP application tonight, which is really just to get residential, we're committing to a 100% full build out of the roadways that are identified in our TIA. So in other words, our TIA contemplates upwards of 250,000 square feet of commercial space, and the requirements of us to expand and build roadways to accommodate those commercial uses, we're committing to 100% of that infrastructure, which we calculate to be in about $7 million before the first commercial project is built. So I hope that will show some confidence that we believe the retail is coming.
not, I'll excuse him, and I'm happy to also excuse Mr. Fagundes unless there are questions for him as well. Okay.
No.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If I could proceed with calling our third witness, Mr. Matt Peach.
Good evening.
Good evening. Mr. Peach, could you please state your name and address for the board?
Absolutely. My name is Matt Peach. My office address is 801 Jones Franklin Road, Suite 300 in Raleigh, North Carolina, 27606.
Thank you. And what is your occupation?
I'm a senior transportation engineer at Stantec Consulting Services.
Do you hold any degrees or licenses?
Yes, I have a bachelor's degree in civil engineering from Pennsylvania State University, along with a master's degree in civil engineering from North Carolina State University. I'm a licensed professional civil engineer in North Carolina, as well as a certified professional traffic operations engineer.
Thank you. And how long have you been working as a transportation engineer?
13 years in North Carolina.
At this time, I'd like to tender Mr. Peach as an expert in the field of transportation engineering and traffic impacts. I'm going to pause for a second. Do you need me to be speaking into the microphone?
We're being simulcast on YouTube.
Sorry.
And I worry that your questions are not being captured, only the answers.
Trying to,
But,
okay.
try that.
All right, is this working? Great. Trying to ask the questions in COVID-friendly spaces. I just tendered Mr. Peach as an expert in the field of transportation engineering and traffic impacts. Is he accepted as an expert?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Peach, are you prepared to testify as to certain factors related to the permit?
Yes, I'll be testifying for factors 1 and 6.
And can you explain for the board your role in this project?
Yes. I was the project manager for this traffic impact analysis. The original TIA was published in February of 2020, with a revised version published in August of 2020. I also prepared an addendum to the TIA, which analyzed the impact of only the proposed residential portion of the development on the existing network. Finally, we submitted an October 2020 memo summarizing NCDOT's direction with respect to these studies and findings.
And can you explain the purpose of each of these findings?
Certainly. The original February 2020 TIA examined the full build-out of the Walbrook development, both north and south of Main Street. This is expected to be built in phases and completed in 2025, and includes more than just the area in the special use permit. This was updated and revised in August 2020 to incorporate a new tract of land on the west side of Main Street adjacent to the Bojangles restaurant. Because the residential portion of the project is to be developed first, NCDOT requested analysis of the residential-only component of the development on the existing network. This February 13th, 2020 analysis includes the existing signalized intersection of Main Street with the Burlington Mills Road and the unsignalized intersection of Main Street with the driveway for the residential portion of the Walbrook development, referred to as Access D.
Thank you. And can you describe the scope and recommendations of the residential-only portion?
Yes. We conducted the study assuming 155 townhome units. We found that this portion resulted in 53 new AM peak hour trips and 67 new PM peak hour trips. To mitigate the impact of these trips, we recommended the following improvements: extending Wall Creek Drive to Main Street, constructing a 100-foot northbound right turn lane, constructing a 100-foot southbound left turn lane, both at the site driveway on Main Street. The applicant has agreed to construct these and included them in the offered condition.
Thank you.
Question, is that going to be a signalized intersection?
The proposed driveway, no.
And can you clarify which proposed driveway?
That would be the Wall Creek Drive extension out to Main Street.
So if I want to turn left, well, it's obvious. Turning right would be easier, but turning left going to Raleigh to work, I do not have a signal light to help me.
No, and that is for spacing concerns with the LAP grant realigning Burlington Mills Road. In coordination with NCDOT, they did not want two signals that close together.
I don't understand that because they should move the one at Burlington Mill to this site.
Correct.
Because it would not be needed any longer.
Could we clarify for both the board and folks watching at home which intersections we're talking about on the screen? Mr. Peach, where the cursor is currently, is that the extension of Wall Creek Drive?
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
And that's not intended to be signalized?
That is correct.
And is that because of the spacing of the intersection of where the cursor is on the screen now?
That is correct. The realigned, I should clarify, the realigned section of Burlington Mills Road at Main Street is intended to be signalized.
And is that work to be done in connection with the LAP grant that the town is seeking to complete?
That is correct.
Thank you.
Okay.
In heavy traffic conditions, as Commissioner Wilson is saying, is that connection between, in the townhomes, would you be able to go through there to get to the signal? I see a nod there. So, you know, if it's low traffic, you can go straight out to Main Street. High traffic, you could go through the neighborhood to get to the signal without, is that correct?
That's correct, at full build out. And I believe if we go back a couple of slides, those should all be public roads that you would take to get out to the signal.
See what you're talking about, Jack?
I see. I see.
That, the connection, the very end of that Wall Creek, is that a right out only? It looked like it was an island right there.
That's correct. In the ultimate condition, after the Main Street LAP grant project is complete, that particular intersection will be right out only. However, before that project is complete, that will be a full movement driveway onto Main Street.
Okay, thank you.
So just to clarify, while the LAP grant work is being coordinated and getting off the ground, that will be a full movement access?
That is correct.
Thank you.
And that's exactly how it was studied in the TIA.
Thank you, Mr. Peach. Would these improvements, in your opinion, appropriately mitigate the estimated impacts of the proposed townhome use?
Yes, the recommended improvements are expected to mitigate the impact of the residential site traffic on the study area. At most, the townhomes add 1.9 seconds of delay per vehicle of total delay to the signalized intersection of Main Street at Burlington Mills Road. The estimated queuing of the intersections is not expected to have an impact on the roadway geometry and the ability to provide adequate storage at the two intersections.
We covered a little bit of this already, but can you elaborate for the board whether your studies resulted in any other recommendations made for the entire Walbrook development?
Yes, significant improvements are to be constructed along Main Street, as well as additional roadways within the project. These include extensions of Virginia Water Drive and Burlington Mills Road through the project, providing generous vehicular and pedestrian connectivity in and around the site. In connection with the townhome development in Phase 1 and per the recommendations of NCDOT, the non-residential uses will be developed in later phases adjacent to Main Street. However, the improvements highlighted on this screen are proposed to be constructed at the outset of the development, which will minimize traffic disturbances and duration of construction on Main Street. When developing transportation improvements, Rolesville benefits from the existence of the 401 bypass. This means that instead of having 401 running through downtown Rolesville, the town can have the Main Street, it's laid out as part of the Main Street Vision Plan. What we've been able to do with the help of NCDOT and town staff are to develop recommendations for Walbrook that are consistent with the vision and that build upon the work occurring along Main Street and Burlington Mills Road. The resultant improvements are largely shown on this slide. Based on this study and my experience, as well as NCDOT input, the improvements will mitigate any impacts by new development.
Thank you, Mr. Peach. And so to clarify what we're seeing on the slide, these are improvements that not only relate to the residential area that's outlined, but also improvements that are commitments as a part of this special use permit application. Is that right?
That is correct.
Thank you. In your opinion, do these improvements have an impact on the town's roadway improvements with the LAP grant?
No, and the conditions to this permit explain this. This slide shows the town's roadway improvements with the LAP grant. In order for this development project and the LAP grant to avoid entanglement, this line was drawn to avoid confusion. I will point out that the specific improvements along Main Street that the analysis for the residential portion of Walbrook called for are included on this slide, which shows the improvements the town will build. However, this permit has a condition requiring the applicant to build these improvements prior to the first certificate of occupancy if the town has not started those improvements.
And that would be the certificate of occupancy for the first residential units?
That is correct.
Thank you. In your opinion, with respect to factor 6, will the proposed development cause undue traffic congestion or create a traffic hazard?
No, the traffic generated by this development is within the acceptable range. The improvements I have mentioned will adequately mitigate any increase in traffic. It is also important to note that these improvements are proposed to be constructed at the outset of the development, again, minimizing traffic disturbances and the duration of construction along Main Street.
Thank you, Mr. Peach. With respect to factor 1, in your opinion, will the proposed development and use materially endanger public health and safety?
No, based on this study and my experience, as well as NCDOT input, the improvements will mitigate any impacts by the new development. The site will have access to 3 public streets, Virginia Water Drive, Burlington Mills Road, and Wall Creek Drive. The increased connectivity will allow for easier flow of emergency services, including fire and police protection. These roadway improvements will also include pedestrian and bicycle paths that will increase pedestrian connectivity and provide access to the commercial development within walking distance along Main Street.
Thank you, Mr. Peach. I'd like to confirm that, is it accurate that your firm conducted each of the TIAs and review memos that are associated with this case?
It is.
And all of those memos are in the agenda packet before the board tonight?
That is correct.
At this time, I'd like to move and make sure that each of those studies and memoranda, the February 2020 TIA and revision, as well as the October memo, is accepted into evidence. Are they accepted, Mr. Mayor?
Ronnie?
Yes.
Thank you. I have no further questions for this witness and I'd like to tender him to the board for further questions.
Any questions, board? Okay, proceed.
Thank you. I'll excuse this witness. And I'd like to call our final witness, Mr. Hunter Howell. Mr. Howell, can you please state your name and address for the board?
Yes, my name is Hunter Howell, and my office address is 412 East Chatham Street, Cary, North Carolina, 27511.
And what is your occupation, Mr. Howell?
I am a professional real estate appraiser, and I work for Valbridge Property Advisors.
Do you currently hold any licenses?
Yes, I am currently licensed by North Carolina as a state certified general appraiser.
And do you have any other professional affiliations?
Yes, I'm currently a member of the Appraisal Institute, and I'm working towards my MAI designation.
How long have you been appraising properties in Wake County?
Approximately 7 years.
At this time, I'd like to tender Mr. Howell as an expert in the field of property appraisal and impact to property values.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, what was your first name again?
Hunter.
Oh, sorry. Thank you.
Mr. Howell, are you prepared to testify as to any factors here tonight?
Yes, I will be testifying with respect to factors 2 and 3, impact to property values and harmony with surrounding areas.
And what did you do to prepare to testify about those today?
I prepared a report in which I analyzed the effects of the proposed mixed-use developments to determine the effects to the surrounding areas.
Okay, we've prepared printed copies of that report. If I could pass those out or hand them to the clerk to be passed out.
How many of those do you have?
Do I need to put my mask back on or wait?
Do you just have the 2 copies?
We have 15 copies. They're each bound, and then
okay.
stapled within there. Just couldn't find a binder clip large enough. Do you need one of the copies back? You good?
Thank you.
There's none for you.
Thank you.
Is there 57 acres or 52.8 acres to this?
Mr. Howell, I think that the question's been asked, how many acres are altogether in the project?
I thought I had heard 57 or saw 57 somewhere.
52.8.
So I didn't hear 57 at all tonight? I did.
I wrote it down.
Okay, so what is that?
So
That was
it's
in my staff
57.
report, and that is from the deeded acreage. That
Okay.
is not necessarily all that it will be involved in the site itself.
Okay.
So there's going to be a couple of acreage discrepancies. That's why in my staff report I have a plus or minus.
Okay.
Because there are some things that go on with the buildable sites and deed versus GIS and things like that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Julie.
Thanks for your I thought I was here.
Mr. Howell, can you please explain your report to the board?
Yes, I examined the current demographics, surrounding developments, and residential housing market within what I consider this proposed development's neighborhood. From this data, I extracted that nearby proposed and existing residential developments range from 1.6 units to 9.83 units per acre. Based on this, the proposed special use permit to allow up to 7 units per acre of townhome development on 23.38 acres is consistent with the surrounding uses and is in line with other proposed developments.
What did you do to examine the housing trends in this area over time?
The housing units, I used Triangle MLS, which is a reputable survey, and that from there you can go year to year to see the number of houses that were sold within a certain perimeter, the prices they were sold at, days on market, among other things.
Thank you. And in general, what has this residential area housing market been doing in that time?
The residential housing market has been improving in this area over the past several years, with the trend expected to continue for the foreseeable future. Looking at residential sales in the area over the past 4 years, home prices have been increasing substantially, while average days on market has been increasing. This indicates a strong residential market in need of additional housing. Those values are reflected on the charts on page 7 and 8 of the report. First title says 2017 residential sales, and those are the grids.
Great. Did you examine the impact of the non-residential development on surrounding property values?
I did. In general, residential uses rely on commercial development to support the consumer needs, including grocery stores, restaurants, and services. As new residential developments come to areas, supporting commercial uses tend to follow. Over the last decade, we have seen this throughout the Triangle area, that mixed-use developments enhance the surrounding area property values. I examined 2 mixed-use developments with master plans located in similar situated towns as an example of this. While they are of larger scale of acreage than this project, the relationship between population growth, new development, and increased land values is similar. The first project is Flowers Plantation in Clayton, noted on page 9 of the report, which started as a residential development on vacant rural land. As the residential subdivisions grew, the surrounding area began to develop commercially and continued to drive property values up in that area. The second project is Wendell Falls in Wendell. It's a large mixed-use development. As the residential portion was built out, the demand for supporting commercial uses followed, commanding higher sales prices for the land. The promise of future walkable services in turn made the surrounding residential more sought after, and the Wendell Falls residential sales have turned upward as well.
Thank you, Mr. Howell. And to the point that was made earlier, in both of those examples you used were based on similar level of kind of rural towns experiencing new growth pressures?
Yes, there's been all sorts of kind of developments throughout the Triangle, but I thought the best case for this scenario was to use ones in Clayton and in Wendell for this.
And in both of those cases, the residential preceded the commercial, and as more residential was built, it kind of fed the need for commercial uses?
Yes, but in both of these cases, the residential was majority complete or was very far along before the commercial aspect was started to be developed.
And is that consistent with what you've seen in this area in the past several years?
Yes, absolutely.
That the residential would precede the commercial use?
Yes, yes.
Thank you. Based on your experience and report, will the proposed development substantially injure the value of adjoining properties, in your opinion?
No, the proposed development will provide additional townhomes to a growing area in need of additional housing and will provide commercial development in order to support the growing population's needs. Based on the trends observed in similar mixed-use developments in comparable communities experiencing growth similar to that of Rolesville, the proposed development will not substantially injure the value of adjoining properties.
Thank you, Mr. Howell. And how does the placement of the uses on the site impact the harmony of the proposed uses with respect to the existing surrounding uses?
Yeah. So placing the commercial portion along a major corridor and the proposed townhomes in between the commercial and existing single-family homes allows similar uses to be placed near one another and a natural progression of intensity and activity as one gets closer to Main Street.
Thank you. And in your professional opinion, does the placement of the uses in this manner tend to make the proposed center in harmony with the use, scale, and bulk of nearby uses?
It does.
Thank you. I have no further questions for this witness and tender him to the board for any questions.
Questions from the board? Not seeing any. You may proceed.
You may be excused. We have no further witnesses to call, but I'd like to just briefly summarize the evidence, and then I can reserve some time to rebut any witnesses should they care to testify, or I can just proceed through with the summary of our case.
I'll give you a chance to do a closing argument. So unless you got something to add before I call any opposition witnesses.
No, Mr. Mayor, I just have a summation.
Okay. Great, thank you. Well, at this time, I will call for any evidence from parties in opposition and their witnesses. Robin, do we have any?
Mr. Mayor, we're going to go check.
Okay.
There is no opposition to present any evidence.
Okay, thank you, appreciate that. Okay, with not having any additional evidence, then I will allow the attorney to have a brief closing argument.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I might ask for Julie's help on advancing the slides, but not right now. The proposed conditions are on the screen, and just before I did want to make the closing, I just want to make sure that the conditions that are in your packet, as well as the updated special use permit concept plan that was printed before you, are made a part of the record tonight before we close our evidence. Are they accepted into evidence, Mr. Mayor?
No, proceed.
Okay. They are accepted into evidence?
Yes.
Thank you. Our proposed conditions are in your packet, and many of them have been testified as to tonight. They're on your screen, and I'd just like to make sure that they're clear. The first condition is the uses and maximum densities are limited to those shown on the concept plan. Any non-residential units not designated on the residential townhomes tract may be used on the tracts for non-residential use that we discussed earlier. Prior to the issuance of the first certificate of occupancy for the first residential unit in the east site, site shown on the concept plan. The developer will complete the extension of Wall Creek Drive to Main Street, and we talked about that extension earlier as well. Condition 3 seeks to describe the LAP grant work that was testified to by Mr. Peach, and I think he did a great job in kind of summarizing how those will dovetail with the LAP grant work and the commitments that we're committed to today. And Condition 4 also speaks to those improvements that are a condition of this special use project. Again, the evidence was that those improvements will be committed to with the special use plan at the outset, even though those aren't directly related singly to the residential work. The fifth condition is just clarifying that the developer will complete the traffic improvements as set forth in the October 2020 memo by Stantec that's in the evidence. And then conditions 6 just specifies that because we're at the special use permit stage, final acreage of sites are subject to change at site plan and construction plan based on final surveys, site plan review, grading, and that sort of thing. But they're generally in the form of the concept plan in front of you tonight. And finally, 7, as shown on the concept plan, areas to the east of the riparian stream adjacent to the Wake County pins listed here shall not be developed with structures or improvements. That's the no-build area that we talked about before. So that's not just a concept, that's actually a committed condition on the special use permit.
I don't have those conditions in my packet. Mine's different. Is this different?
There's
or
a
am I
shorter,
looking at
there's
the
a
wrong
shorter
one?
one, then you go to page.
If you go to the end of the agenda item, these were updated.
About
Okay.
I saw the one you told me.
It's the
297.
updated one. Okay, I was going to say, I'm missing a couple.
All right.
Perfect, thank you.
Do you need some time to get to that?
Fine.
Okay.
You're fine, long as I.
Julie, if you wouldn't mind advancing a slide, please. Thank you. I'd like to just briefly summarize the competent material and substantial evidence you've heard tonight from 4 experts in their field and how it addresses each of the 7 findings. With respect to factor 1, the use will not materially endanger the public health or safety. Mr. Peach testified that the site plan has incorporated the recommendations of the TIA done by his firm, which will ensure that the site has increased vehicular and pedestrian connectivity. This will mitigate any impacts that development may have and provide access for fire, police, and emergency services, as testified by Mr. Fagundes. With respect to factor 2, the proposed development will not substantially injure the value of adjoining property. We just heard from Mr. Howell, an expert appraiser. They testified that development of the site will not substantially injure the value of the adjoining residential areas because it will provide a transition between the higher intensity use along Main Street, and that will transition toward the rear of the site and the existing residential areas there. He also testified as to similar communities and how the residential patterns develop, and that those other communities develop with the residential portions first, followed by the commercial portions, and each of these tended to increase property values of the surrounding existing residential areas. We also heard testimony that builders commonly request walkable amenities and seek to place new residential uses in close proximity to commercial uses, and that tends to have a positive effect on those surrounding uses, as testified by Mr. Williams. Factor 3, the proposed development will be in harmony with the scale, bulk, coverage, density, and character of the surrounding area. We heard from both Mr. Fagundes and Mr. Howell how that transition of the intensity of Main Street back towards the existing residential area made the mixed-use component both in harmony with the existing infrastructure and residential uses and compatible with the surrounding areas by enforcing that transition. This is also consistent with the comprehensive plan policies that Mr. Williams testified to earlier. With respect to factor 4, the proposed development or use will generally conform to Rolesville's comprehensive plan and other adopted plans. Mr. Williams testified as to several of those policies in both the comprehensive plan and the Main Street Vision Plan, and how the proposed townhome use is appropriate for the current zoning designation, as well as fulfilling the first step in what will be the mixed-use center that completes the vision that the town had years ago, and that is dovetailing with the LAP grant improvements that are envisioned in those plans. With respect to factor 5, the proposed development is located appropriately with respect to transportation facilities, water and sewer, fire and police protection, and similar infrastructure. Mr. Fagundes gave his expert testimony with respect to location of available utilities, and then he further testified that with the public infrastructure extensions that are provided for in this concept plan, there'll be increased access to transportation networks, additional areas to get back out to Main Street, as well as for fire and EMS to access those existing drives in a less circuitous route than they exist today. So increased current availability to infrastructure, but actually increasing the availability for all of those utilities and services that the town provides. With respect to factor 6, the proposed development will not cause undue traffic congestion or create a traffic hazard. Mr. Peach testified that Stantec performed each of the studies that are in the record tonight. They collaborated with both the town and DOT in terms of the review, and that the site plan has incorporated the recommendations of the TIA and addendum, which ensure that the site has increased vehicular and pedestrian connectivity, and that this will mitigate any impacts that the development may have and provide that access for fire and utilities that I spoke of just a moment ago. And finally, with respect to factor 7, the proposed development will comply with all applicable requirements of the UDO. Mr. Fagundes testified that in his expert opinion that compliance was in place, and that of course as we work through the site plan and further permitting processes, if approved tonight, those will be extra measures that will conform to the UDO as we walk through that measures. He also confirmed that several of the aspects that we're providing tonight in terms of the no-build area are over and above what the UDO would otherwise require. In sum, under North Carolina law, we have met our burden for approval of the special use permit by providing competent material and substantial evidence on each of the 7 factors with expert testimony. I'm happy to answer any questions at this time, and thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. That was very good and very thorough. Is it any questions from the board for the attorney? I guess to make sure we kind of understand this process and the future process, assuming that this special use gets approved tonight, it still comes back for a site plan at some point in time to the board. And that's when some of the questions like Commissioner Wilson asked about the type of townhomes and stuff, we will see more of that in detail.
Yes, you will see the site plan as the Board of Commissioners before you grant the final approval for the site plan.
Right. That was my only question. Any other questions you guys have?
For the attorney or for anyone?
Anyone?
I'm
going to close in a little bit.
I'm always like, can I ask this question? I'll just ask it, and if I'm not allowed, Mr. Attorney, keep me out of jail. So I'm curious about the other side of the street, and maybe it's a question for Austin, because I remember the initial kind of thought process was there was something being done on the other side of the street. Can you speak to that at all?
I think I can answer the question. Okay. I'll try to, and if it's not sufficient, we can recall a witness. But that portion is zoned differently, and it'll be subject to a different entitlement process that will come later.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah, good question. Any other questions? Well, thank you. Appreciate your comments. Thank you much. And now I will turn to Julie. Do you have any comments from the staff?
Staff has no additional comments unless you have questions for us.
Any additional questions for the staff?
I do. Julie, they are seeking COSUD, Special Use District. The next public hearing is a text amendment to change SUD to conditional zoning districts.
Yes, this does not affect this permit because while it's still a SUD district, if you pass the next public hearing, if you pass that next text amendment, it will rename and relabel the SUD to a CZ district. However, that text amendment 18-04 that we talked about earlier still outlines the townhome uses as a special use permit. So special use permits do not go away. What we're doing with that text amendment that's coming up in the next hearing is to relabel the district name from special use district to a conditional zoning district.
So we lose no control.
You do not lose control, and this would still be a special use permit process as outlined in 18-04, that text amendment that says that townhomes have to be a special use permit process.
Okay.
And I do have a question for staff, just to clarify, the Main Street development, I don't know the title, it goes to Burlington Mills, the Burlington Mills realignment, and that's where it stops. Is that correct? Right? And from there, this applicant is proposing to build out from there, right?
From there to Jonesboro Road.
I just wanted to make sure. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, it actually goes to the new Burlington Mills, right?
Right, that's what I'm saying, the realignment portion.
Yeah, that's right.
And then from there, okay.
As we look at our special use or at our hearings, public hearings that we have, usually there's a space like in the next one where staff recommends approval or doesn't recommend approval. I can't find anything where staff recommends this.
At the time of the agenda, staff cannot make a recommendation because they haven't heard all the evidence submitted in for testimony at the hearing. So I can make a recommendation now after hearing all the evidence submitted into testimony.
I'd like to hear your
I
recommendation.
have a question before you do that, because it also said the TRC wasn't able to as well, right?
Yes, the TRC only reviewed the concept plan. They have not yet reviewed the site plan, so the site plan still has to go through TRC.
Okay.
So staff does recommend approval. What the applicant is proposing is consistent with the comprehensive plan. It is consistent with the land use plan. It is consistent with the ordinances and policies that we have in place. That does include the extra 78 units that they are not using in their density that would be placed on vertical with first floor commercial and upper story residential. That is a provision we do have in the current code and that we have reserved for other townhome developments within the town. So we have set precedents with that. So that is something that is currently on the books. So staff is going to recommend approval for this.
Okay.
Yeah, and you can find a little bit of that on page 289.
Is this the first time we've done it this way? Where the staff approved it at the board meeting?
It might have been. New 160D regulations are very strict on how we do things and following procedures for the evidentiary hearings. So it will be done this way going forward, so we can comply with those new
289
regulations.
is in regard to the next one.
That's the next one, yeah,
I have my
it is.
head spinning a little bit.
There's nothing in here with this
No,
one, yeah.
there's no verbiage in here on making
92.
your motion.
Is that not on 92?
Page
It's in
92.
there somewhere, I
There's a
saw it.
proposed motion.
92.
There is.
Yes, I did include a proposed motion in the staff memo.
I'll get to it.
Okay.
Any other questions for staff? Thank you, Julie. Very good job. Appreciate
Good
that.
job, Julie.
Okay, now I'm going to close the public hearing or the evidentiary hearing. And if I do, that means this deliberation of the board. Any questions for any of our guests before I do that? All right. I'm going to close the hearing and I will turn it to the board for deliberations.
Okay. Then I would like to move to approve SUP 20-02 Walbrook, based upon the evidence and testimony received at the hearing, to determine the findings of fact.
I second.
Okay, we got a motion for approval from Commissioner Sneed and a second one from Commissioner Medley. Is there any other discussions or deliberations needed? Not hearing any. All in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous, Madam Clerk. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Good job.
Thank you. Finally, I have to run to my car.
Thank you guys for the work y'all put in. Very good, hard work there. So thank you much for that.
We'll make y'all proud.
Thank you. Yeah, we actually been waiting for something like this a long time. So,
But you know what, Austin? I
really
don't know if
looking
you
forward
remember
to it.
this. I'm sorry.
And I think, we all got to be realistic. We're still talking about 2 or 3 years away before we see the new grocery store, so it's not going to happen overnight.
Austin, do you recall a conversation that you and I had in South Carolina? No, in Charlotte, when you said Rolesville was a town that people are watching? Did you say kicking rocks or tossing stones, waiting to see who makes that first move? This was about 4 years ago at the convention. I remember you said that, and the next thing I know, you were in that room.
She wanted to.
He said, we're just...
Thank you for coming. Okay, we have been going for 2 hours and 20 minutes, and I think a couple of commissioners needs a break, and so do I. So we're going to take a 5-minute and hopefully come back at 9:25. Thank you very much, and we're in recess. case UDO TA 21-01 text amendment to change the special use district SUD to conditional zoning CZ districts. And I have opened the public hearing, so introduction by staff.
Yes, thank you. Can I ask the attorney to turn the sound off? Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you. Echoes. Good evening again. This is item C2 for UDOTA 20-01, changing all the special use zoning districts to conditional zoning districts. So anything that you see on the map with an SUD will be relabeled CZ if you approve this text amendment. For 160D-703A, before July 1, 2021, according to Session Bill 2019-111, a lot of legal mumbo-jumbo here, it's in effect as of January 1, which has already passed. The authority to have special use zoning districts is now prohibited. So we now have zoning districts that aren't allowed by 160D. So we have to change all the existing special use zoning districts, SUD, to conditional zoning districts, CZ. The current UDO will amend to remove all provisions of the special use zoning districts, and the official zoning map will be relabeled and renamed, not rezoned. It's a name change only, from SUD to CZ. Everything in the purple is what is conditionally, which will be a conditional district. It is now a special use district, which again is now prohibited by 160D. So everything in purple will change from an SUD label on the map to a CZ label on the map. Staff recommendation is that the staff finds the request reasonable in the public interest and is consistent with the comprehensive plan, and recommends approval of the text amendment to change all special use districts to CZ districts as presented. The planning board did hear this text amendment. They found the request reasonable and in the public interest and consistent with the comprehensive plan and the UDO and the official zoning map to change all the special use zoning districts to conditional zoning districts as required from NC Chapter 160D, Article 7, Section 160D-703A1, and Session Bill 2019-11, Section 2.9B. That's our staff report.
So I have a question, just for clarity's sake. So we're changing the district to a different titled
Yes.
district?
Yes.
So does that mean in the future, what we had tonight, where someone needs a special use permit, would it still be called that if they came forward?
Special use permits are still special use permits.
Okay. So
The district, the difference between a special use permit is based on use. It's a special use permit. The special use district has a district where every use in that category has to come forward as a special use. In a regular zoning category for like commercial outline, you would have things permitted by right, things that were not permitted, and things that were permitted by special use permit only. What we have on the books right now for the special use districts is that we have districts where everything is a special use permit. We have no by right areas for that special use district. So what this does is this relabels that map from the special use district over to a conditional zoning district, which will allow the rezoning process to still take place, would allow special use permits to still come forward, but it does help us comply with 160D to get rid of those prohibited districts where everything is listed as a special use.
So I was just clarifying that if we approve this and change it to conditional zoning CZ districts, in the future, we will still see what's called a special use permit.
Yes.
Just want to clarify, so when I see it, I don't go, wait a minute, did we change that?
And every special use permit that you have approved in the past is still on the books. This does not touch those special use permits that have been approved. This is only a label change on the map.
Districts.
Yeah. And just make sure I understand what we're talking about. You know, usually these things are 2 or 3 steps. The first step is the zoning. So that's what we're talking about here. We're changing the zoning where it's conditional, which is not quasi.
Correct.
But if you have to take the next step, townhomes and it's a special use, then that will be quasi.
Yes.
So now we may do quasi with both. In the
Yes.
future, the first one, and is it in all zonings that's going to be conditional where we don't have to do quasi? Because with conditionals, you get more leeway to make a choice than you do in special use.
Moving forward, most rezoning cases that you will see will have some sort of concept plan attached or some sort of site plan attached with it. So most rezonings moving forward will be conditional zonings where you have that legislative control. There may be some straight rezonings where you're going to have to consider all the uses that are allowed in that district that do not have a site plan or a concept plan attached to it. So at that point, you'll be looking at the permitted uses table to look at every permitted use, whether it's by right or by special use permit, to see if that fits for the rezoning. But most cases moving forward you will be seen as a conditional zoning case. We are encouraging that with the new land development ordinance. But special use permits are still on the table, and they will still be required for certain uses, even if it is, something that you may have seen in the past or will see in the future. Those conditional zoning districts, again, are the rezoning, and the next permitted use step might be to get that special use, like you saw tonight with the townhomes and the commercial outlying districts.
Right. Any other questions? All right. Well, I will now take comments from the public in favor or opposition. Do we have any signed up at all, Robin?
There's no one over there, right?
I don't think it is, but
Probably gone, I
maybe,
think.
maybe check David, make sure. No. Okay. Not hearing any comments from the public, I will now close the public hearing and allow the board to make a consideration on this.
Mr. Mayor, I motion to approve this requested UDO text amendment 2101 to change all special use zoning districts to conditional zoning districts. This request is consistent with the Rolesville Comprehensive Plan to update the Unified Development Ordinance and official zoning map to change all special use zoning districts to conditional zoning districts as required in NC Chapter 160D, Article 7, Section 160D-703A1, and Session Bill 2019-111, Section 2.9B.
Okay. I have a motion. Is there a second?
I second.
I think I heard Michelle first. So a motion was made by Commissioner Wilson, second by Commissioner Medley. Is there any other discussions or comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Not hearing any. I think that passed, Madam Clerk. The next item 3 is another public hearing, UDO TA 21-02, which is a text amendment to remove identified parcels from the Town Center Overlay District. I will open the public hearing, and now comments from the staff.
Last month, you passed a zoning map amendment to rezone certain parcels from the town's property over to the new Town Center District. This text amendment takes those zoning map amendment changes that were approved last month and removes those parcels from the Town Center Overlay District that is currently on the books. What this does is it allows those districts to still be zoned town center, but be removed from the overlay. It does not remove the other parcels from the overlay, so I'm going to explain the map that's on the screen. On the left side, you see the existing zoning, and in the outline, the dark black outline here. Let me get my handy-dandy laser pointer up here. In this outline, you see the portions that were rezoned last month to town center, that the town properties over here in the red, you see what is currently the town center overlay district. The parcels that are within that dark outline that the town owns will be removed from the town center overlay district to clean that up on the ordinance, and they will be just the town center zone. The other parcels that are within the town center overlay are not being removed. They will remain. So the privet property, that is the little divot here, and then the other properties surrounding that are still currently in the town center overlay remain in the overlay. We're only removing those properties that we rezoned last month. This is consistent with the comprehensive plan as the area is identified as town center and preserved open space, and is consistent with the Rolesville comprehensive plan for the town center area. The town-approved plans do take this into consideration. The 2002 thoroughfare plan has the South Main Street and West Young Street as major thoroughfares. This is identified in the Main Street vision for the intersections to make a more walkable streetscape. The project does have funding for street improvements and is currently under design, started with construction to start by the year 2022. And no additional street improvements are required except as authorized by site plan approval for development on those properties for the district, except for the Main Street Park that is existing. The comprehensive bicycle plan, bike lanes are included in the Main Street Vision Plan improvements. So planning staff recommendation, taking those plans into consideration, finds this reasonable request in the public interest, is consistent with the comprehensive plan on future land use map, and we recommend approval for TA 21-02 Town Center Zoning District as presented. The Planning Board made their recommendation at their January 25th, 2021 meeting. The Planning Board voted to recommend to the Town Board of Commissioners approval of TA-2102 to remove the identified parcels from the Town Center Overlay Zoning District. Again, they found the request is reasonable and in the public interest and consistent with the town's plans. And the motion was moved forward and seconded by Member Pierce and carried by unanimous vote. Because Chairman Power inadvertently omitted his vote, it is counted in the affirmative. When we were doing our first roll call vote, Mark forgot to include himself in the vote, which is an automatic vote for an affirmative vote. So I just wanted to call that out, that we did have an omission of a vote. It is considered an affirmative vote, and Mark is aware of that and okay with that. So that is, that was the January 25th meeting and brings us to where we are today. And that is the staff report and public hearing, unless you have questions.
Any questions for Julie? Very good details there. Again, I'll call for public comments in favor or opposition. Robin, any sign-ups for this one? And nobody's next door? Okay. So any final questions for staff, attorney, or Julie there? All right. Well, I'll close the public hearing and turn this one over to board for consideration.
I move to approve UDO TA-21-02, removal of identified parcels from the Town Center Overlay Zoning District. The request is reasonable and in the public interest, is consistent with the town's comprehensive plan recommendations for the town center area.
Second.
Okay. I got a motion and a second. Motion made by Commissioner Vilga, second by Commissioner Sutton. Is there any other discussions?
No.
Not hearing any. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Not hearing any. Unanimous, Madam Clerk. Thank you very much. The last one, turn to the last page. The very last page is a resolution that we just need to vote on, And are you going to introduce that? Do you have anything to say about
I'm
that?
here to answer questions. I have about 3 slides. You don't really need to see them if you've read the staff memo, but I can go through them if you want me to. But I'm here if you have any questions about it. We did not want to put this on the consent agenda just in case you did have questions, as it's the first one we've done in a while, and you'll be seeing a couple more of these in the future for Chandler's Ridge. So we wanted to make sure you were comfortable with the process, and if you have any questions, I'm here to help answer.
I wasn't really sure exactly what it
Okay,
meant.
ask away.
Okay. Go ahead.
I wasn't exactly sure what this meant. Yeah, I really meant to call you Kelly, but the day got away from me.
Why don't you run through the slides?
All right, I'll run through the
If you don't
slides.
mind, run through the slides. and
Okay,
ask you questions.
all right,
So,
thank you.
we had a special use permit approved for Elizabeth Heights. It's now called Elizabeth Springs, and that was approved in 2018, and it's off of Averett Road. The special use permit was 17-02, and it excluded about 6.5 acres of a development that fronted Averett Road because it's currently in the watershed. And part of the application and testimony that night for the special use permit was that in order for this area to be developed, it would have to be regraded, and the watershed would have to be removed from these parcels, and it would have to be rezoned once the watershed is removed. So what we did, it's a multi-step process. You regrade the site, then you request watershed removal. You come in and you rezone the site, and then they'll have to amend the special use permit to allow the rest of that development to be added to the currently known Elizabeth Springs. So with the special use 1702, that was spelled out in the steps, so we're following those special use permit steps. So the construction on site has begun, and the final plats have been recorded for phase 1. The site has been regraded, and the stormwater runoff now drains to the Smith Creek watershed instead of the Little River watershed. And that is through different stormwater controls and, of course, the regrading. There are certain parcels that no longer sheet flow towards the road, they sheet flow away and towards catch basins. So that flow is what was regraded and why it can be removed from the watershed. In order for certain building permits to be issued and the site plan to be approved for the amenity center, the applicant has submitted the necessary documentation to the planning department, and we need to start that process of removal so that the amenity center, which is partially in the watershed and partially out of the watershed zoning, that site plan can be approved, and they can move on or move forward with their special use permit and their building and construction on site. A requirement of the removal process from the state is that the Town Board of Commissioners certify they are authorizing the planning department to forward the request to the state. So we need a resolution adopted or a certification letter saying that the board has heard the case and is comfortable with the regrading and the removal of the watershed, knowing that the applicant will then come back and have that watershed rezoned, so it's no longer in the watershed and rezoned to, in this case, it'll be the rest of the RMPUD for the special use amendment for 17-01. So if the state approves the removal of the watershed based on the new grading information that has been submitted, the engineering documents, the drawing files, the CAD files, and the letter from the applicant that you have in your packet, then that next step will be triggered as soon as the state says, yes, we see the grading has changed, we will remove this from the watershed. We will be coming back with a map amendment to rezone this to something different than the watershed that is currently the R40W on site. And that's about it. So that's the process. It's right now, this is more procedure than anything else. So what you're authorizing tonight is for staff, for me to forward to the state the application package from Bateman Civil Survey that says we have regraded the site, here's our engineering documents, here's our side seal plans, and then the state will look at it to verify that the stormwater runoff does go into a different watershed than the Little River Creek, and then we can come back with that rezoning process.
So these are all the lots in that one subdivision, Elizabeth Spring.
Mm-hmm.
So,
All those parcels are the newly created parcels that need to be removed from the watershed as part of the special use permit 17-02.
And a map wasn't provided. I didn't see a map being provided.
No, a map is not provided. I've got the drawing files, I've got the CAD files. I can draw up the area if you would like to see it on iMaps. But the CAD files, what you're looking at is the regrading of the site. So it's the portion of the watershed parcels that are part of the Elizabeth Springs. It's the ones that front right up Averett Road.
So those parcels don't even exist today then?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, if you look at our maps, they won't even exist today, I don't know.
Yeah, some of the parcels are still being updated from the final plats that were approved.
Right.
Yeah.
is this a long process?
I have never taken this through the state. I don't know how long this process will go through the state. I've talked with Mr. Clerk from the state, and he has walked me through the process on what we need to do. I don't believe it'll be a long process from the state, but I don't know what they have to do to review and then get back with me. I don't know what their turnaround time is for that.
David, is this the first for Roseville to have
That was
something
my
like this
question, too.
presented to the town?
Well, at least in Danny's 4 years, so it's our understanding, could be.
I'm sorry, you had a
No, I didn't even know that, I thought that once it was in the watershed, it could not be. So is it, just so I understand, is this able to happen because you repeatedly said the water is redirected away from the little
site,
river watershed?
yes.
So as long as it's going somewhere else and it's not going in that one, then it's not in the watershed. So why can't that be
So
done
typically,
more?
it's probably
right.
it's probably edges. You had to have control of the adjoining property. So this property is partial watershed. So if they didn't have control of the entire parcel, they couldn't push it onto adjacent property since they don't control it. Since they do, and it's an edge of watershed, it's not in the middle of, they can kind of carve it and shift it, and there's an allowable percentage of that to happen.
Yeah.
I think
You could not go in the middle of the watershed and do such an action, though,
Yeah.
and redirect it.
Yeah,
Is there any shifting
I
of
think you're saying it don't work in all cases.
Right. Okay.
No.
That makes sense.
But
There's not.
it's two that actually I recall that is asked, well, we'll be coming to ask for this. One was way out on Averett Road and one was kind of across near the cemetery. Is that?
Chandler's
the
Ridge.
two?
Chandler's Ridge will also be doing the same. Mhm.
Yes, you'll be hearing from Chandler's Ridge.
And again,
next
both are
couple of
edges.
months.
They're doing a lot of grading right now. I guess they'll come back once they, don't they have to prove that it changed the water flow somehow?
The grading plan will show that.
So the state won't approve it unless they can prove that they changed it.
That's
That's
right.
what the engineer does.
That's right.
That's why he does
He
it.
yes.
I don't know, I'm telling
But they
you.
can't take it
So
forward.
they're in the gray is the area in question. Right, Julie?
Yes, so these parcels right here, these three on front that are part of the open space are not included in the request.
Can you use the red dot?
Oh, I don't know if I can or not, because it's not on
Oh,
the
okay.
PowerPoint
Oh, yeah,
anymore.
okay, that's right. Okay, sorry.
So
It's those
this little
three?
strip that's open space, this strip that is open space, and this strip that is open space are not included in the request. This parcel is, these portions here, this one, these, this one, and this one, and this one are all the 13, 14, however many parcels that you see on, called out by the parcel numbers. Those are the ones that have been regraded. This is the ridge line right about here. And so that's why this is still flowing this way, so it's not part of the watershed request. Everything that's here will be rezoned in the future once that request is granted from the
So
state.
you can go out there now, the roads are in, and as you come off Averett, you'll go up an initial hill, still. And that is the ridge line, going up the ridge line. And then they've created that ridge line, and now it's graded so that what Julie just described goes to the west. And they're asking for application to have that recognized so they can have those usable lots.
Yes. So right now, this is the amenity center site, and we cannot approve the site plan because part of the site plan sits within the R40W zoning and is not considered part of the development until it is going through this process to have the watershed removal done by the state and then rezoned from the town, which is all part of that special use permit 17-02. When that special use permit came forward, that was part of the testimony provided, was that the applicant would be doing this process.
Okay. Thanks for helping us understand that a little bit.
Yeah, and I'm sure we'll, as Chandler's Ridge comes in, when we see this again in the near future, we'll have more questions, and I might be able to explain the process from the state side a little bit better on what their turnaround time is and what we're expecting from them. I just, at this point, never having been through it, I can't answer that question. But as we go through this process, I'll keep you informed of where we are.
Okay. If there's no other questions, I'll entertain a motion.
I motion to authorize the planning department to forward the request by Bateman Civil Survey for the boundary revision of the Little River watershed near the development of Elizabeth Springs to the state of North Carolina, Division of Energy, Mineral and Land Resources, Department of Environmental Quality.
Okay. I have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right. So a motion by Commissioner Wilson, second by Commissioner Vilga. Is there any other discussion, comments? If not, I'll call for a question. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Not hearing any, Madam Clerk. I think that was unanimous. Appreciate that. Next item is fire study update. Is that Kelly, were you going to do that?
Yes. And considering we have 4 minutes and 6 minutes into your self-imposed curfew,
3 minutes.
I'll move this along.
3 minutes.
So 2 weeks ago, we met, and the board expressed, or you directed me to continue moving forward towards a discussion with the fire board on how we may start moving towards consolidation of the fire board district into the Rolesville fire, into the town of Rolesville. I just want to give you a brief summary of what's happened in the last 2 weeks. There has been 2 conversations between myself and Greg Grayson, the consultant, and then there has been a request from myself to the Rolesville Fire Board. The request was a continued request for what was the exact action by the board to the town besides a letter of request for employees. And they had a meeting after the study, and they had some consideration. And we've been told there was a motion or a consensus of having the town move forward on consolidation. I've made that request verbally 3 times, and then I put it in writing further just to make sure we had that for the file, for ourselves, for our records. We know exactly what we're trying to address here from their perspective and seek that support. When you say board, the fire district board, excuse me. That has not, I've not received that. I have received a call saying that there wasn't a motion per se, but there was a consensus, and that there will probably be a letter sent to us with that specific consensus in the letter, and maybe some more information. So I have not seen that. I also have heard in that conversation with the fire chief that there was some preliminary meetings of a small group of the fire district board, I believe, talking about maybe what some of the conditions of the consolidation effort would be and such. But today I have not seen heard anything further than that. So in conversations with Mr. Grayson, how do we proceed? And I think what we talked about leaving the last meeting 2 weeks ago was get a proposal from the consultant on how we would proceed. And it's Mr. Grace's impression that it's too open-ended for him to write a proposal with a conclusion. His proposal is to start the engagement, that he would facilitate, and it would be an hourly rate. Not knowing how long this would take, not knowing where the road might travel on this discussion. But he is willing and able, I think, to kind of be the facilitator in between a negotiation and make sure that points are addressed throughout. And he has the ability to kind of know what those important points are that need to be addressed by both the town and the Rolesville Fire Board as we go forward. He recommends that he would like to see one person from each group be the chief person to talk to each other through this. I don't know if that's feasible or how, but it might be one or two people. But he's ready to get started. I think he would probably come in with an outline of what he knows past contracts look like between towns and fire districts towards consolidation, and just start going through kind of a checklist of items that probably need to happen as we talk about this, and have both groups come to terms with how those steps would occur and timelines those steps would occur. And I think what he's always proposed is the first agreement needs to be made, when will a complete consolidation happen? And then when a date is chosen, working backwards on the steps, essentially, to meet that consolidation. So I'm here to report there's not a proposal. He is ready and prepared. I think I heard you loud and clear that if we do this, you would like to see and make sure that the fire district pays also part of this process. So that would be probably the first question, is making sure that there is a shared financial partnership in this effort. And I guess I am ready to get started. And if you are inclined to have me be the lead or somebody else, I'm open for that conversation. But to meet the timeline or meet the kind of continued interest, I think we probably need to get started at least to see where it goes.
Kelly, of course, I'd like for you to be the lead, but I have also asked Chief Privet to give you a balance sheet on the assets and liabilities, and share it with this board, so this board will see the financial condition, which is pretty good that they're in. That in the event that we did move forward, what we would inherit. So have you been given that yet?
No.
Yeah, you hadn't asked for it either, I don't guess.
I have not asked for it.
Would you ask for it formally? The board, I've had conversation with board members that want you to see it.
And I know, I agree with Jackie. I think, you'd be a good leader of that. You've experienced stuff like this before. I don't know anybody else more qualified. And I know they've said many times we met with them, if cost is an issue, they will, I'm almost thinking they would fund the whole thing if they had to. So,
I agree with you, Ronnie.
Huh?
I agree with you on
Yeah.
that.
So, I don't know if we want to have them to do that or not, but if the holdup is the board, not want to, put additional dollars in it right yet, I think they would fund it if it need to.
Based on what Kelly just shared, it sounds like the holdup is he's asked for something he hasn't gotten it.
Yeah, but he's saying they're going to charge by the hour, right? I guess that's what I want to make sure we're okay with them charging by the hour and how much we're going to pay, because, and that's why I said they're willing to pay for all of it, I think, is kind of what I've heard, and Michelle's heard the same. So.
I thought I heard Kelly say he had asked for some things that he hadn't received yet, and then he mentioned the open-endedness of the contract and the cost being hourly, and I'm sure they're open to shared costs. But to me, I heard you say that you hadn't gotten the items.
We still have an open file on exactly what the board agreed to.
Would it be beneficial for you to come up what we need and give it to them, let them vote on it? I mean, do you have an idea what you're looking for to get this thing started?
Could be, maybe. That might be a starting point. That could
Yeah.
be. I don't want to guess, but that could be maybe and maybe that's what the first sit down, quite frankly, is, and that may be what the first agreement is, a date, and what do we need, and a agreement, a general statement of what we're trying to accomplish. So I could see there's going to be possibly stages of this, coming back and checking in with you, and that might be where we go.
Because, I think if you want something that, from the board, Sheila said you didn't have.
Yeah.
What is it you want, and have them to vote on it, and we'll have it,
Fair enough.
I mean, wait, I'm sorry, what do you mean? What do you want?
In that meeting, they said that the board took action that basically, they would do whatever they need to do to get this thing moving along. And I think that's kind of what they said, wasn't it?
Right, and I believe.
They were willing to do whatever, I think is.
Well, right, but something was asked for. I wasn't at the meeting, but I was told, something was asked for, not what you're talking about now when Jackie mentioned the financials or something, or the balance sheet or whatever.
Yeah,
It was asked for.
Minutes.
Some members are under the minutes. Some people were under the impression that he had gotten it, but others knew that he didn't. So are you saying put it in writing?
I think that's what he's saying.
Does he put it in
He
writing
wants
to see if you'll get it?
Vote the board.
I'm not an attorney, but can I just say, if you're requesting something from them, can you not request it in writing and they're not provided in writing? I understand the
That's
handshake
my
and a
question.
smile, but it feels like this process is just taking.
Yeah, no,
That's my
I'm just
question.
giving you an update that there has not been any verification from their end on what their motion was. And certainly, I hope to get some of that, and I can get that. I've done it verbally a couple times, and I've not done it.
Don't seem to be
And then I did put it in an email in writing
There we go.
the last time.
Okay, so that's what I was asking.
Last week, I did put it in
regards to
writing.
putting it in writing.
But-
Is he the only person you can get the information from?
He being Chief Privet.
Whoever you're trying to get the information from, is that the only contact?
Spence Jones is chairs the board.
I don't think it's a big issue. And let me sort through it a little bit, but I just want to let you know that I still don't know exactly what was the motion yet and approval by the board. I do think there's a way we can get there to verify what it is. And you've all made some good suggestions.
I
so-
have been told that it's not in the minutes, that it was a consensus.
That's right.
And so there wasn't a motion made because it was consensus of the whole board to do whatever it takes, and they don't have it in the minutes.
That's right.
Yeah, and that's probably a very loose motion to do whatever it takes, and.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so.
And all that means that now we do need to write it up so we can get it to the point
Yes.
of consensus of what we all want to get accomplished here.
Well, I
So,
think you may tell them this is what we need, and you vote on it.
Right.
Because I know they all realize the urgency to getting this information.
When do they meet again, do we
forward.
know?
I don't know when they meet.
April what, Jackie? Because I.
Yeah, they don't meet in
told
March.
A couple I would.
Well, I'll get started. I'll call Mr. Grayson and I will call Chief Privet and say, who is your side? And we'll start going and I'll keep you,
At 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock?
April 8th at the fire department.
and expect regular updates from me because I'm going to need your guidance.
Okay.
Okay, that's my update.
All right.
Can I
Town
just
att-
ask before, are we done? We're not done yet?
No, not
Okay.
not yet. Town attorney, you got anything?
No report.
I knew what the delay was going to be now.
Town manager, any additional report?
I want to share a piece of good news, if you don't mind, in just a second. Today, we received news from the Watkins Farm subdivision that they have reached an agreement with Dominion Energy to provide gas in that subdivision.
Send across the street.
And if you remember, Charles was the only one in that subdivision that has natural gas because it's in the road, right? And I think they've tried it a little bit before. And then we had a interested citizen contact the mayor and I, a year ago, said, how do we get this going? And it took some escorting through the channels of Dominion to get him to the place. It took him to understand, with some advocacy by myself and some folks higher up in Dominion, And he has now a majority of the homeowners that are willing to commit to natural gas centers, what they needed to provide that in there. So they are willing, they're ready now to put natural gas into Watkins Farm. And that project will happen this spring, summer. I think that may be the only subdivision in Rolesville that is not served by natural gas. There may be one more. But I think that's fantastic. I think natural gas is an essential service, essential utility now, and so I think it's a great win for them, and I really do appreciate his fortitude, because it took a lot of his work, Michael Belcher's his name, to get that through with the neighborhood. So the good news is, I'll keep you informed of this going forward, so.
Yeah, I don't know what you describe as a neighborhood, but I do know some streets that doesn't have natural gas. And, but it's not 100% coverage, even with Watkins Farms, I don't think. It'd be good to have that if we can get it somehow. And, I know Dominion has been purchased by another company, so I don't know if that changed it or not.
Is it Duke?
No, I don't forget who
Just ask.
purchased Dominion.
Staff is next door. They have said they're willing to pass to get you out on time.
Okay.
That'd be great.
I don't think they have necessarily anything, but they're on standby if you like to hear them and see them.
Let's move on.
Okay.
Do we
No,
have an
that's
update on the
fine.
vaccine, though?
That's one of my questions.
Yeah.
That was one of my questions of the two.
Vaccine?
Yeah, like any updates on,
Yes. So I believe you all are eligible now. If you can, elected officials are called essential workers if you show that what you do is in person. So I don't know how you define that, but government phase 3 just got moved up today. And that is a large group of different essential workers, including government employees that work in person. So I believe that almost everybody in town hall now is qualified.
but that doesn't include your spouses or your families.
Does not. It's just the individual.
So we'll work around to that.
So I know one person in this room's already been qualified. I've been qualified. I tested it out. I have not got my time yet, but we're going to roll that out tomorrow to the town hall staff. We'll roll out what we send to them, to you, to advise you. But it's my perspective now that all town employees that are in person are eligible now for Group 3.
Well, I was going to say that if your family members want the shot, when they have those weekend registrations, just like churches, typically they run out of people before they run out of vaccines. So if you happen to go to one of those around the time before they're closing, you can get your shot, because they will use it up. They will use what they have, and what they don't use, they have to discard. So if you can get to one of those locations, if you know something's coming up, like when they were going to do it at some arena, PNC Arena, that would have been a good opportunity to go, because.
PNC is still going to be the site for a long time.
Oh, okay.
It's what they call the mega site. So it is going to be a Wake County site that but I don't know. Yeah, I've been told you have to go there with an appointment, but I don't know that for certain.
Well, if you go to Duke Hospital, like I did last week for something else, they had a site set up and there was no advertising. So they were my mom was there. They asked me, "Are you here for a shot?" I'm like, "No, she's going to be here for a shot since you're open." So there was a lot of complaints about why Duke was not advertising that they were open. I know why, but if you're in the area, stop by Building 3330, I believe it is, and get your shot. I'm just saying, I'm telling.
Put them on blast.
Oh, my other question was, Ting, since we last spoke, have they spoken to you since the last meeting?
Who's that? Excuse me.
Ting?
Ting?
Yeah, internet. What are they called?
Fiber
Yeah,
optic.
fiber optic.
Have they said anything since? I know they had a
They
chamber hosted an event with them.
Yeah, they had an online
Right.
thing, yep.
And
I know they're in town. They're starting the light up process. I think if I recall, Michael said it's April for Rolesville. But they are actually into some of the subdivisions now, doing the specific, not houses, but lighting up the network within the subdivisions. So you should see them very active here soon.
Well, because let me tell you something. I'm always dropping off.
All right.
Any other comments from the board? Any other from the board? I just want to appreciate we had a good night, got a lot of things accomplished. I am glad the vaccine is moving on. I think with the, what's the new one, Johnson & Johnson coming out, that's going to even make it, faster. I think our group was March the 15th, so I just heard a couple of days ago they moved it up. Like I said, you can do it now. So, it looks like it's getting a little bit ahead of the game, and hopefully this will work, and we'll start being able to have some events here in town again. I've kind of missed those and having events and all. We're still planning 4th of July, I think, right?
Correct.
So, we probably need to talk about that if it's getting closer. Believe it or not, it's getting closer.
It's real close, yeah.
So,
I think we're going to go for it, unless you all
4 months.
flag it pretty soon. But
Yeah.
we're all in.
And it should be pretty big because we got the money from last year and this year to blow up, so.
Okay, you mentioned events. I just want to tell you something funny. Maybe it's not that funny to you, but I've been getting so many phone calls at my space for baby showers.
Oh,
Now I
gosh.
refer to them as the COVID babies because there's so many baby showers that are taking place March and April. So, anyway.
And if we get to a place that we can have, a get together, I would like for we missed all the activities last year with the staff and stuff. And I think that the board has kind of, I wouldn't say separate, we just hadn't been able to socialize with the staff, in the last 12 months like we should do. So I don't think we want to wait to Christmas to do that like we normally do. So we may need to have a spring or summer event somehow. Maybe a good summer event outside would be good to have.
I think a June garden.
Yeah. So I hope things will pick up. So appreciate the board tonight and all the work that you guys did, and thank you very much. And with that, I'm going to adjourn the meeting. And
I wanted to say that Julie did a great job.
She did.
I know it was
Did,
said a couple
Julie.
times. I just want to make sure you hear it, that you did a great job. Thank you.
You should see her at the planning board meeting. She's phenomenal. My eyes sometimes
Thank you,
roll.
Julie.
So